Hey guys, tonight we're crawling back to the blood-churned shallows of Normandy, yes, that Normandy, and watching your boots fill with seawater before you even get a chance to scream. You're seasick. Your rifle's slick with condensation. The air stinks of oil and salt, and someone just lost their breakfast on your sleeve. You're not even on the beach yet. This isn't Call of Duty. It's not even Band of Brothers. This is the real D-Day landing, the June morning in 1944 when thousands of Allied soldiers, many of them barely old enough to vote, were packed onto steel tubs and pointed at hell. And tonight, you get to be one of them. Lucky you. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Feel free to drop your location and what time you're listening. I always love seeing where you all tune in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're cold. Not pull up the covers cold. Deep, bone sour, salt wind cold, the kind that crawls under your skin and sets up camp behind your spine. The English Channel is not a warm body of water. And you've been in it, or near it, or under its spray, for what feels like 100 years. Really, it's been less than 12 hours. The landing craft you're in is a floating steel rectangle the size of a school bus. No seats. No windows. Just a ribbed metal hull. 22 other soldiers, one operator, and your thoughts. Which, at the moment, revolve around the feeling that your intestines are slowly trying to crawl up your throat. The diesel fumes don't help. Neither does the rocking, lurching, really, every time a wave slaps the side of the boat. You've tried looking at the horizon. You've tried closing your eyes. You've tried that little wax paper barf bag they handed out, now full and tied off like a sad balloon. None of it works. Next to you, a guy from Illinois is muttering something into his helmet. It sounds like a prayer. Or maybe just song lyrics. You can't tell. Your stomach clenches again, violently, and you decide not to ask. You check your gear for the third time. Rifle, secured, though the sling is digging into your shoulder. Ammo, 30 rounds in a pouch that smells like mildew. You've got a bayonet strapped to your calf, 2 canteens, a trench knife, and 3 packs of chewing gum that someone said would help with nerves. Spoiler, it doesn't. The guy across from you retches again. This time, it's not quiet. You try to focus. Block it out. You remember the briefing, June 6, 1944. Operation Overlord. You're in the first wave, lucky again. You'll hit Omaha Beach, codenamed Dog Green. Sounds cute. It's not. They told you the beach would be heavily fortified. Strong enemy resistance. You remember the slide projector clicking through grainy recon photos, bunkers, barbed wire, machine gun nests. Watch for interlocking fields of fire, they said. You nodded. You didn't really know what that meant. You do now. Historians still argue whether the planners underestimated the German defenses or just didn't care about the first wave's odds. But what you know, what you feel in your bones, is that they weren't prepared for how many bodies the sea would swallow. A red flare lights up the horizon. That's the signal. You hear someone shout, 2 minutes. You were told this would be the worst part, the wait. The crawl of time as the beach comes into view. You stand, because that's what everyone else is doing, and clutch your rifle like it owes you money. The water starts sloshing over the ramp. Waves crashing sideways. You try not to think about the fact that some guy's already drowned trying to step out too early. Or that the water's cold enough to seize your lungs in seconds. 1 minute, you hear gunfire now. Not close, but not far either. A popping, echoing percussion. Everyone's yelling different things. The chain of command broke like your last decent pair of socks. You remember something else from the briefing. Find cover. Advance in short bursts. Problem is, there's no cover. Not really. Just sand and more sand. A few smoking tank husks. You crawl behind one, ducking under twisted treads. The smell is horrific: burnt rubber, metal, something else. There's a body half inside the hatch. You look away, another guy's there, blinking blood out of one eye. He offers you a chocolate bar. It's melting in the sun. You take it. Chew automatically. Your mouth is too dry to swallow. You both stare at the water. More landing crafts are coming in. More ramps drop. More soldiers spill out. Some make it. Most don't. You glance at your wristwatch. It's broken. Of course it is. You ask the guy next to you what time it is. He says, "Does it matter?" Fair point. There's a myth that soldiers didn't talk during combat. That they were silent, stoic, noble. You laugh. Yes, actually laugh, as someone 2 feet away screams a string of curse words creative enough to earn a poetry prize. Another guy is arguing with his machine gun, as if it betrayed him. You hear someone shout, "Where's my shoe?" People talk. Especially when dying might be imminent. Talking feels like control. You realize you've been muttering too. Something about pancakes. You're not sure why, then someone yells, "Move up." And without thinking, you do. You reach the next hedgehog, diving behind it just as bullets chew through the air above. Sand kicks up like it's angry at you. A chunk of metal whizzes past your ear. You duck. Cough. Your hands are shaking. You think about your mom. Or your brother. Or the cat you had when you were 10. You try not to think about Illinois. A shell lands nearby. The shockwave slaps you forward, and your ears start ringing. You can't hear anything now, just the muffled pulse of your own survival. You look around. Someone's dragging another guy by the webbing. A medic? Maybe. His armband is half torn off. He's shouting, but it's like watching a silent film. You blink. Grit in your eyes. Blood on your lip. You crawl again. Finally, you reach a small ridge. Dirt, rocks, some kind of trench line the engineers blasted out. You flop into it like a fish in a bucket. Your heart is trying to escape through your throat. You made it. Kind of. The beach is still chaos. You're not even halfway to your objective. But you're not dead, not yet. You look down at your hands. They're covered in someone else's blood. You wipe them on your jacket. Somewhere above you, a seagull cries. Bold move. You lay your head back against the dirt, and close your eyes for just a second, just a second. The surf is behind you now. Not far, but far enough that you no longer feel its pull tugging at your legs. You made it past the waterline, barely, and every inch you've crawled since has been a coin toss with fate. The sounds have changed. They're no quieter, but they're different. Less thunder, more static. Cracking gunfire. Shouts. A whistle that might be a command, or maybe just someone losing their mind. You're behind a slab of steel. Part of something that used to be a tank, now nothing but a twisted husk half buried in the sand. It smells like fuel and fear and whatever someone had for breakfast before they died. You try not to breathe too deeply. Your boots are soaked. The salt water made it in early. And now they squelch with every shift of your feet. It's more annoying than anything, until you realize your toes are numb. You wiggle them, just to make sure they're still there. Barely. The sand has caked onto everything, your helmet strap, your sleeves, even the bridge of your nose. You reach up to wipe it off and smear it worse. There's no clean spot left on you. You are a soggy, mud-colored mess of anxiety and confusion, and you've never felt more out of place in your own skin. Someone drops next to you with a grunt. He looks barely old enough to drive. You both stare ahead, breathing in sync. There's a lull in the fire, a strange moment of almost calm. You good? He asks. Like this is a picnic, you nod, because it's easier than saying anything. Then the machine guns open up again, and the lull shatters. This is what they meant by beachhead. It's not a place, it's a condition. A state of in-betweenness. You're not in the water anymore, but you're not inland either. You're somewhere purgatorial, where cover is a generous term and the goal is still theoretical. The engineers are supposed to clear obstacles. Explosives. Tank traps. But from your vantage point, you see more craters than cleared paths. The beach is chaos, smoke drifting in gray sheets. Figures darting in and out, some falling, some not getting up. You move when you can. Low to the ground. Elbows bleeding. You find another chunk of wreckage to hug. You press your cheek to its cold metal side and whisper something nonsensical, like, "I'm sorry," to no one in particular. Someone is yelling again. Not at you. Just yelling. It sounds panicked. You wonder how many times a person can yell before their voice gives out completely. That's when it hits you. Your rifle is jammed. You didn't notice before. Maybe because you weren't really firing it. You were holding it like a talisman, like a plank in a shipwreck. Now, though, it matters. You fiddle with the bolt. It's gritty with sand. The kind that gums up everything. You try clearing it. It takes 3 tries, a cut on your thumb, and more courage than you expected to pull the trigger again and hear the click. You've never been so comforted by a click. The plan was to get off the beach in 20 minutes. Swift and overwhelming, they said. It's been an hour, you're still here, you have no idea where your squad is. You don't know where forward is anymore. The entire world is a series of bangs and booms and the smell of cordite mixed with seawater. You crawl forward anyway. Not out of strategy, but because the space you're in feels like a target and the space ahead might not. That's your entire reasoning, maybe less dangerous. You pass a helmet on the sand, upright, undamaged. That's weird. Too neat. You glance inside. Empty. Still weird, a few feet further, a boot. Just one. You don't look to see if it's full, you keep crawling. There's something strange about the way your body adapts. You're still scared, yes. But it becomes muted, background noise. The primary sound is your breathing. In. Out. In. Out. Like you're underwater again, counting seconds before surfacing, you find another patch of soldiers, maybe 5, all crouched behind the same chunk of debris. One of them is furiously sketching something into the sand with a bayonet. A map. A plan. A grocery list. Hard to tell, they barely glance at you. You're one of many now. Just another muddy, shivering figure with wide eyes and dirty fingernails. You give a small nod. One nods back. That's enough to be part of the group. A corporal points to a break in the smoke ahead and yells something like, "Move to the bluff." You don't know if he's in charge or just the loudest, but everyone scrambles like it's an order. You move with them. The bluff is not inviting. It's steep, maybe 30 feet high, and covered in rocks and scrub grass. Above it, machine guns. Probably mortars too. You don't see them, but you can hear the whistle crack of something tearing overhead. Historians still argue whether the Germans expected the landing at Omaha or were simply fast to respond. Either way, they're up there, and they're busy. You begin the climb. There's no trail. You dig your fingers into clumps of dirt, boots slipping on loose rock. Someone above dislodges a stone the size of a lunchbox. It misses your head by inches and slams into the soldier below, who cries out and slides back down. He doesn't come back up, your legs burn. Every step feels like it costs years of your life. You can't tell if it's mud or blood on your palms anymore. Then, halfway up, a burst of gunfire cuts through the air. Someone near you drops. You freeze. Face pressed to the slope, you can hear your own pulse in your ears. you don't remember the next few seconds. Only that you move again. Because stopping feels more dangerous than climbing. At the top, there's a lip, a shallow ditch. You dive into it without grace, chest heaving. You're not alone. 2 others land next to you, gasping like swimmers after a race. Beyond the bluff, you see farmland. Actual farmland. Rows of something leafy. You can't believe it. Just a few hundred feet from death and chaos, and there's cabbage. You don't get to enjoy it. A mortar shell lands somewhere behind you. Dirt rains down. You cough. Again, someone beside you mutters, "Why does France smell like Iowa?" You let out a short, ugly laugh, then you check your magazine. You've got 12 rounds left, time to ration. You don't fire much. You don't know what you'd hit if you did. You point your rifle vaguely forward and pretend it's strategic. Every time you see movement, your finger tenses, then relaxes. Your brain has split into 2 people. One wants to shoot everything that twitches, the other worries it might be friendly. You remember what someone said on the boat, don't shoot unless you're sure. You weren't sure of anything back then. Now you're sure of this. That rule is dangerous. Still, you wait. Eventually, an officer shows up. Real stripes. Real radio. He says words like rendezvous and secondary objective. No one responds, but they follow him anyway. You do too. The next few minutes are a blur of short runs, awkward crouches, and more shouting. You pass another medic. This one's dragging a guy with a shattered leg. The injured man is singing. Loudly. A hymn, maybe. Or the worst attempt at opera you've ever heard. You nod to the medic. He nods back. It's a sacred exchange, not dead yet. You move on, your boots make a squishing sound with every step. You can feel a blister forming. You'd kill for dry socks. Not literally, probably. Eventually, you make it to what passes for a staging point. It's a small depression behind a crumbling stone wall. There are maybe 20 guys here, all looking equally destroyed. One has a bandage wrapped around his face like a half-mummy. Another is missing his helmet and chewing gum like it's a war crime. Someone's boiling water in a dented mess tin over a tiny flame. You marvel at this. It's the most normal thing you've seen all day. The water tastes like rust and ash, but it's hot. Someone shares a pack of cigarettes. You don't smoke, but you take one. It's something to do with you. You regroup outside. The column is moving again. You fall in. Your partner taps your shoulder, offers a sip from his canteen. The water's warm and metallic, but you drink it like it's champagne. Ahead, someone stumbles into a hole, ankle-deep mud, and lets out a string of whispered swears. Watch it, someone says. This whole area's like soup. It is. Normandy isn't dry, especially in early June. Rain the day before the landing turned fields into swamp. Your boots squelch with every step, and your socks are slowly dissolving into paste. You think back to basic training. The drills. The long hikes. The way instructors screamed at you for having a wrinkle in your bedroll. None of it prepared you for how heavy mud can be. Or how quiet things get when you're waiting to be shot at. You take cover in a shallow ditch while the sergeant tries to radio HQ. You lie back, staring up at a tree. The leaves shift slightly in the breeze. It's peaceful. Almost. A bee buzzes near your helmet. You shoo it away lazily, too tired to care. Your partner beside you is chewing on something. He offers you a bite. It's a ration biscuit. You accept out of boredom. It's like chewing a brick wrapped in sawdust. You mutter, delicious. He grins. War gourmet. You both laugh. Quietly. Briefly. The kind of laugh that feels like it might break you open if you let it go too long. Then the sergeant returns. Radio's shot, he says. We keep moving. Orders were to rendezvous near Vierville. Vierville, you don't know where that is, but you nod anyway. The next stretch is harder. More hills. The hedgerows are thicker. You can't see more than 10 feet in any direction. Every corner could be a trap. Someone up ahead sets one off, a mine. A loud one, you hear the blast before you see the smoke. Someone screams. Not a sharp scream, long, guttural. You feel it in your chest. Medics rush forward. You hang back, shaking. Your teeth clench without meaning to, when you pass the spot later. There's blood in the grass. You look away, no one talks for a while. Eventually, you reach a ridge. From here, you can see the outskirts of Vierville. Stone houses, a narrow road, a church spire like a needle against the sky. It looks peaceful. You know better. The sergeant signals for a halt. You collapse against a tree, legs trembling. Your partner lies flat on his back, arms out like he's making a snow angel. You look at each other. Still here, he says. You nod. Yeah. He closes his eyes. I miss music. You don't expect that. What kind? Jazz. Big band stuff. Benny Goodman. You nod again. You remember your sister used to play Goodman records when she cleaned the house. You can almost hear it now, under the wind. The two of you sit there, imagining music while mortars fire in the distance. Eventually, it's time to move again. Always is. You descend toward Vierville. The village is half abandoned. Shutters hang crooked. A bicycle lies in the road. You sweep every window, every door. It feels like you're walking into a memory someone forgot to finish. Then, movement. A shot cracks from a second-story window. You hit the dirt. Another shot. Then another. Then chaos. You can't see who's firing. You just return fire in the general direction, like everyone else. Shouts echo. Commands blur. Your partner is beside you, yelling something. You can't hear him. You keep firing. Reload. Fire again, then silence. The house is cleared. The sniper's gone. Somehow, none of yours are hit. You breathe. Hands trembling. You don't realize your lip is bleeding until you taste it. That night, you hole up in one of the houses. It smells like dust and smoke and cabbage stew gone sour. You find a spot by a window and sit down. Your partner pulls out a photo from his breast pocket. Some girl, black and white, smiling with her whole face. He sets it beside his helmet and leans back. Tomorrow will be worse, he says. You nod. Probably. He closes his eyes. I miss music. You don't expect that. What kind? Jazz. Big band stuff. Benny Goodman. You nod again. You remember your sister used to play Goodman records when she cleaned the house. You can almost hear it now, under the wind. The two of you sit there, imagining music while mortars fire in the distance. Eventually, it's time to move again. Always is. You descend toward Vierville. The village is half abandoned. Shutters hang crooked. A bicycle lies in the road. You sweep every window, every door. It feels like you're walking into a memory someone forgot to finish. Then, movement. A shot cracks from a second-story window. You hit the dirt. Another shot. Then another. Then chaos. You can't see who's firing. You just return fire in the general direction, like everyone else. Shouts echo. Commands blur. Your partner is beside you, yelling something. You can't hear him. You keep firing. Reload. Fire again, then silence. The house is cleared. The sniper's gone. Somehow, none of yours are hit. You breathe. Hands trembling. You don't realize your lip is bleeding until you taste it. That night, you hole up in one of the houses. It smells like dust and smoke and cabbage stew gone sour. You find a spot by a window and sit down. Your partner pulls out a photo from his breast pocket, some girl, black and white, smiling with her whole face. He sets it beside his helmet and leans back. "Tomorrow will be worse," he says. You nod. "Probably." He closes his eyes. "Hope it's over before Christmas." You don't say anything. You know what he means. Not the war, this day. This kind of day. The one where every step might be your last, and even the cows are suspicious. You both drift off like that, sitting up, weapons in hand, dreams flickering behind tired eyes, and somewhere in the distance, the sea keeps crashing, like it's calling you back. You wake before sunrise. Not that you really slept. Your body shut down, sure, but your brain kept pacing. Now it's gray outside, the air damp and still. Your joints creak as you stand. Everything smells like dust and mildew, and your back aches from the stone floor. Your partner's already up. He's pouring water from his canteen into his helmet, giving himself a brisk splash to the face. You follow his lead. It's cold and bracing and somehow makes you feel both alive and more exhausted. There's a low rumble in the distance, maybe artillery, maybe thunder. You try to convince yourself it's thunder. You fail. Outside, birds are chirping. Actual birds. Like they have no idea where they are. Like this isn't a former war zone turned temporary shelter with broken windows and bullet-pocked walls. You hate how peaceful it sounds. Someone calls for a roll check. You shuffle outside with the others. There are fewer of you now. You try not to look for the missing faces. As you shoulder your pack, heavier now from damp supplies and invisible weight, you glance back at the house. You wonder who lived there. If they'll come back, you hope they don't see what you've done to the place. The wind shifts as you move out. It carries the scent of ash and turned soil, mingling with a strange sweetness that takes you a minute to place. Wildflowers. Somewhere beyond this crushed village, something is still blooming. You hate that it makes you pause. You press forward with the squad, boots sinking into damp earth. The road out of Vierville is a battered suggestion more than a path, rutted, cratered, gouged in places by the sheer force of tank treads and shell impacts. The hedgerows press close again, those thick, stubborn green walls that don't care who's fighting over them. You stick close to your partner, watching his boots, watching where he steps, because every step could be a mine. A trap, a wrong turn into open fire. It's quiet, mostly. Which is worse, the absence of noise doesn't mean safety, it means you're being watched. You keep your rifle at the ready and you're breathing shallow. A fly lands on your cheek. You don't dare swat it, then someone in the back of the column stumbles, a small click, everyone freezes, the soldier drops to his knees, whispering something that's half prayer, half hiccup. A mine. An anti-personnel bouncing Betty, maybe. You remember the briefing, the kind that springs up and explodes at waist height, shredding everything in a perfect circle. A corporal crawls over, slow as moss, eyes scanning the ground like it's full of snakes. He whispers instructions, reaches into his kit. Tense seconds stretch into minutes. You don't realize you've been holding your breath until your vision starts to swim, then, nothing. No explosion. No screams. The corporal waves you forward. You all start breathing again, quietly. No one says thank you. It's not that kind of moment. You keep walking, the terrain starts to rise. Gently at first, then more sharply. Trees reappear, gnarled and short, clinging to life on these wind-scoured slopes. You can see more now. Farmland beyond. A patchwork of green and brown fields. Smoke curling up from two directions. Not comforting smoke, angry smoke. Something's burning, a low thrum buzzes in the distance. Planes. Allied, you hope. You glance up and spot two dark specks in the sky, banking left. Then a third. One of them drops something. A second later, The sound reaches you, a humph that shudders in your bones. You watch the smoke blossom in the distance. It's strangely beautiful. Almost slow motion, your sergeant yells for a halt. You drop into the grass, crawling toward a shallow dip in the earth. You nestle into it instinctively, like you're trying to disappear into the planet itself. We're pushing towards St. Laurent, he says. German position on the ridge. We take it, we link with the Rangers. Someone groans, you almost do too, St. Laurent. You remember the name from the map back at base. A small town, barely more than a cluster of stone buildings and a church. But it sits on a rise, and right now, that rise means power. Whoever owns the high ground commands the region. You tighten your grip on your rifle. The knuckles are already white, you move out again, single file now. The path narrows as you snake up through a cut in the hillside. A trench? A streambed? Hard to tell. The earth is damp. Every footstep sounds louder than it should. You hear something ahead, a sharp crack, then shouting, ambush. The column collapses into the ditch. You hit the ground hard, mud in your mouth. You taste copper. Not blood, just metal, just fear. Someone's firing wildly. Someone else is screaming. You raise your rifle, scan the hedges, the tree lean. There, movement. A muzzle flash, you shoot, don't think. Just squeeze and breathe. The return fire slams into the dirt a foot from your head. You duck lower, cursing under your breath. You hear someone cry out, hit. Maybe dead. You don't look, you reload on instinct. Count the rounds like a rosary. 5. 10. 15. The bullets feel heavier now, then you hear the sergeant's voice, calm, sharp. Left flank, 2 up. Move. You and your partner crawl up the incline, belly to the earth. Your elbows are raw. Your rifle bounces against your side with every movement. At the top, you break left, around the hedgerow, flanking the shooters. You catch a glimpse of a helmet, definitely not American. You fire again. This time you do see the body fall, you feel nothing, then it's over, just like that, the ambush clears. You regroup. You're missing one. No one says his name. No one asks if anyone saw what happened. There's a silence that wraps around the group like a wet blanket. You move on. The village of St. Laurent appears in pieces, first a barn roof, then a chimney. Then the bell tower of the church. Smoke rises from behind the hill, you approach with caution. The path is strewn with signs of retreat, discarded ammo tins, an overturned motorcycle, a dead horse. Yes, a horse, you hadn't expected that. Its eyes are wide and glassy. Flies crawl over its flanks. The smell is terrible, you step over it, the main street of the village is empty. Doors flung wide. Curtains flutter in windows with no glass. You sweep your sector. 1 house. 2. A garden. A chicken coop, chickens, alive, they scatter as you pass, it's almost funny. Almost, you see a doll in the dirt. 1 arm torn off. The other raised as if in surrender, you step around it. You find cover in a ruined cafe. Tables overturned. Bottles shattered. There's a newspaper pinned under a boot print. The date is June 2nd, you imagine someone reading it a few days ago, sipping coffee, unaware that war would smash through their walls. Your partner finds a half-full wine bottle. He sniffs it. Shrugs. Drinks, you do too, it tastes like vinegar and sunshine and fear. You both sit on the floor, backs against the bar, passing the bottle between you. Outside, a tank rumbles past. Sherman. American. You feel safer for 10 whole seconds, then the gunfire starts again, this time it's snipers. Hidden in the church tower. At least 2. Maybe more, you hit the floor. Your partner yells something, can't hear over the shots. The sergeant barks an order, suppress and flank. You're moving again. Always moving, you dart between walls, low and fast. You reach the church courtyard. It's eerily quiet here. Gravestones lean sideways, some cracked. An angel statue has a bullet hole through its face. You enter through the side door. The inside smells like mildew and gunpowder. You step over broken pews, careful not to knock anything. Every creak of the floorboard sounds like a scream, then, footsteps above, the bell tower, you signal your partner. He nods, together, you climb the stairs, halfway up. They notice, a shot blasts past your shoulder. You drop, scramble behind a pillar. Your partner fires upward. You hear a thud. Then a scream. Then silence, you wait. Count to 10, then you climb the rest. At the top, the sniper lies slumped over the edge, his rifle dangling. You don't look at his face, instead, you look out. The view is wide, fields, smoke, rivers glinting in the distance. You can see the beach from here. The boats. The bodies. The sea, still churning, and in the quiet, with the breeze brushing your cheek, you realize something. You're still here, you've made it further than you ever thought you would, but somehow, that doesn't feel like a victory, just another roll of the dice. That night, you sleep in the church, the floor is hard. Your pack is a pillow. Your helmet sits beside you, full of rainwater. You close your eyes, and dream of waves, and dolls and cows and wildflowers, and boots that never quite dry. You don't sleep well. No one does. The church creaks and groans like it's remembering every body that passed through today. Each gust of wind through the broken windows sounds like footsteps. Every drip of rain echoes like a boot. Someone whimpers in their sleep nearby. Another man mutters a name, his mother's. A wife's? You don't ask, you stare up at the rafters. Tracking the faint outlines of wooden beams with your eyes. Anything to keep from looking at the stained glass, shattered in places but still faintly glowing under the moonlight. There's a piece that shows Saint Michael. Sword drawn. Wings spread. His eyes are missing, blown out by a bullet. Figures. Your partner turns over beside you, groans softly, and tucks his arms under his head like a child. You think about asking his name now, but you don't. Instead, you pull your jacket tighter and pretend the cold is the only thing keeping you awake. Far off in the distance, you hear more shells falling. Not near you this time, just near enough to remind you tomorrow hasn't promised anything. You press your face to your arm and try to disappear. Sleep comes eventually, sort of. The day breaks gray and silent. You're not sure at first whether you've really woken up or if this is some fresh, slow-motion version of a nightmare. But the smell gives it away, damp wool, scorched powder, and the faintest trace of wet limestone. The church hasn't burned, but it's been wounded. Everything feels cracked and hollow. You sit up slowly. Your neck protests. So does your back. Your joints feel older than they should. You rub your eyes with a knuckle and glance around. Others are stirring, too. Men wrapped in ponchos, helmets askew, steam rising faintly from their breath even though it's June. It's that kind of damp that seeps straight into your bones. Your partner, who you still haven't named, tugs on his boots and winces. Blisters. No surprise. You've both been marinating in wet socks for over 48 hours. He catches your eye and offers a half smile. Still here, he says again, like it's a motto. You nod. Lucky us. Outside, a faint motor coughs. The thrum of diesel. Not close, but not far enough to ignore. The sergeant motions for everyone to gear up. Breakfast is a mouthful of chalky rations and half-warm water. You chew without tasting. Something with a peanut-like texture and a name that implies it's food. You lie to yourself and pretend it's good, then you're on the move again. Saint Laurent fades behind you like a bad dream with sharp edges. You take one last look at the church tower, now quiet. Pigeons circling it like they've claimed it back. Then you disappear into the hedgerows again. Your objective today is simple on paper: secure a crossroads near Colleville-sur-Mer. That's what the new officer says. A different one this time. The old sergeant didn't wake up. No one talks about it, Colleville. You've seen it on the map, nestled just inland from the beaches. Small, sleepy, with maybe 3 streets and a cemetery. You try not to think about the symbolism. The march is long and tight. The hedgerows grow thicker again. The fields between them look like something out of a painting, if you ignore the shell holes and the rusted fragments of war. Cows wander through the meadows, oblivious. You wonder what they think of all this noise. The road is slick with dew and maybe oil. You walk slowly. One boot in front of the other. Rifle in your hands. Eyes twitching at every shadow. Then you hit the mud. You didn't think it could get worse than wet sand, but Normandy mud is something else. It clings. It sucks. It tries to swallow you with every step. And it's everywhere. You curse quietly as your boot disappears again. You yank it free with a grunt, only to slip sideways into a patch of stinging nettles. The guy behind you stifles a laugh. Nature's booby traps, he mutters. You smirk despite yourself. There's a lull in the advance, and the lieutenant calls for a water break. Everyone crouches low near a ditch. You sit on your pack and wiggle your toes inside your boots, still there, but barely functional. Your partner unwraps something from his breast pocket. You squint. It's a melted chocolate bar. He splits it in half without a word and hands you a piece. It tastes like grit and home, the advance resumes. This time, the landscape opens up. Fields give way to what was once an orchard. Apple trees, battered by shrapnel. Most still stand, but they lean awkwardly. Some are split straight down the middle. It's strangely beautiful. You walk through, careful to step between fallen branches. You spot apples rotting in the grass, disturbed by boots and wheels and bombs. You pick one up. Bite into it without thinking. It's sour, but fresh. It tastes alive. Historians still argue whether Allied troops should have pressed this far inland so quickly. Some say it was necessary to hold the initiative. Others say it was reckless, pushing exhausted men into unknown terrain without enough intel. But you're here now, and the only thing you care about is the horizon, which is when you see it, the crossroads. And the smoke. You hit the ground instantly. The field ahead is scattered with bodies, some American, some German. A tank smolders near a ditch, its treads blown open like a peeled banana. You hear gunfire in short bursts, controlled, methodical. Not panic fire. That's worse. Whoever's up there knows what they're doing. The officer signals a crawl. You inch forward, elbows and knees. The mud sucks at your sleeves. The grass brushes your face. Your heart pounds so loud you think it'll give you away. You reach a small rise and peek over. The crossroads is just ahead, a crisscross of gravel roads, an overturned cart, a stone mile marker peppered with holes. There's a farmhouse off to one side. Smoke pours from its roof, and beside it, dug into the hedgerow, a German machine gun nest. Perfect view. Perfect line of fire. Perfect nightmare. You fall back. The officer starts giving orders. You'll flank left, of course you will. The detour takes you through a shallow creek, over a broken fence, and into a thicket that stinks of manure and moss. Every leaf crackles louder than your footsteps. Your partner leads. You cover. Then switch. The machine gun fire picks up again, short, controlled bursts. They're sweeping the field. Pinning down the others. You keep moving. Closer. The thicket opens up onto a back garden, if you can call it that. A square of dirt, a rusted wheelbarrow. A scarecrow with its head blown off. From here, you can see the gun nest, 2 men. 1 firing. 1 spotting, they haven't seen you, you take a breath, aim, squeeze, the first one drops, the second spins. Fires wildly, you duck. Your partner returns fire, silence, you wait, nothing moves, then the officer's whistle sounds, shrill and sudden, the crossroads is yours, you sit against the stone marker, breathing hard, it's done, for now, the farmhouse is still burning. A cow wanders nearby, unconcerned. One of the guys from another squad is trying to dig a foxhole in gravel. You want to tell him it won't work, but he looks so focused, you let him have it, your partner sits beside you, legs stretched out, boots steaming in the sun, that was close, he says, you nod, too close, you pull out your canteen and take a swig. It tastes like tin and chlorine. You offer it to him. He waves it off and pulls out a flask, where he got a flask, you don't ask, he takes a long sip and wipes his mouth, want to know my name? He asks, you raise an eyebrow, he holds out a muddy hand, Charlie. You shake it, Paul. Just like that, you exist again, that night, you dig a shallow hole and pretend it's a bed. You line it with your poncho and curl into yourself like a question mark. You can hear the sea again, faint, distant. The crash of waves carries inland on the wind. It's a strange kind of lullaby, Charlie snores softly nearby. You envy that, the stars are out, barely. Just a few. You pick one and name it after your sister. Then another. Your dog. Your father. People who feel light years away from this cratered patch of French earth, you wonder if they'd recognize you now. If you recognize you now, you close your eyes and try to picture home, not the address. Not the street, just the feeling, warm. Clean. Quiet, safe, you don't quite manage it, but you try, and that's enough for tonight. The wind shifts again during the night, you wake up shivering. Blanketless, your poncho half draped over your legs like it gave up halfway through doing its job. The moon is thin and pale, casting just enough light to make shadows feel like silhouettes. You sit up slowly, brushing grit from your eyelids. Your back aches. Your legs are stiff, Charlie's still asleep, one hand on his rifle like it's a security blanket. You don't want to wake him, so you just sit there, listening. Somewhere nearby, a nightbird calls. A soft, lonely note, repeated at intervals. The only other sound is the crackle of the dying farmhouse fire, and somewhere far off, the occasional rumble of artillery like thunder on a different continent. You take a moment, an actual moment, to look around. You're alive. In one piece. Nothing bleeding, it almost feels suspicious, then you catch sight of a helmet in the grass near the road. One of yours. No head inside, the war is still here, always just a few steps behind. You lie back again, letting your head sink into the cold, uneven ground. You pull the poncho over your face to block the wind, you dream of nothing, and somehow, that's a comfort. Morning arrives like an afterthought, dull, damp, and indifferent. There's no sunrise to speak of, just a gradual brightening of the overcast sky as if someone dimmed up the light in a fog-filled theater. You wake to the sound of boots shuffling through gravel and someone grumbling about socks again. Charlie's already sitting up, staring off toward the tree line while chewing a sliver of something that might have once been jerky. You follow his gaze. Nothing moves. Just more hedgerow. More mud. More war wrapped in silence. Orders came in, he says, voice scratchy with sleep. We're moving east. East. That's all you get, you don't bother asking why, you're past the point of expecting logic. You stretch your legs, grimace at the pins and needles shooting down your calves, and dig around your pack for something edible. What you find is a tin of meat product labeled in military shorthand that probably translates to edible despair. You eat it anyway. Hunger is louder than disgust now, a corporal passes by and gestures for everyone to fall in. He doesn't say anything. Doesn't need to. The rhythm of this war has become instinct. March, fight, wait, repeat. You shoulder your gear and follow. You've only gone a few miles when the air changes. You don't know how else to explain it. It smells different, thicker somehow. A bit like rust. A bit like electricity before a storm. Charlie notices too. His steps slow. His shoulders tense. You emerge from the woods into what used to be a farm, or a village. Maybe both, it's hard to tell now. The buildings are mostly gone, flattened, shredded, charred. A barn stands at half height, its roof collapsed like a broken jaw. A well has been blasted open, the stones scattered like giant teeth. And in the middle of the clearing, something worse, a crater filled with water the color of oil, still bubbling slightly at the edges. Jesus, someone whispers. You don't say anything, you're too busy counting the helmets. They're scattered across the ground. Some American. Some not. Some still attached to skulls. You pull your scarf up over your nose, but it doesn't help. The smell has settled into the dirt. It is the dirt. This wasn't a battle. This was an erasure. Historians still argue whether the bombing of these smaller inland hamlets was strategic or simply overkill. Looking at the wreckage now, you can see the logic either way. But logic doesn't keep your stomach from twisting. You walk carefully through what remains. You don't look directly at the faces, just past them, always past them. You find a makeshift aid station behind what used to be a school. There's a medic there, barely out of his teens. Eyes hollow, arms red up to the elbows. He's working on a man with half a boot and too many bandages. He doesn't look up when you arrive. Just says, "Don't come in unless you're dying." You and Charlie take a step back. You sit on the steps instead, what's left of them. The stone is warm from the rising sun. It's almost nice. You hear someone crying nearby. Not loud. Not childlike. Just quiet, repetitive sobbing. You don't go looking for it. Charlie hands you a stick of gum from his chest pocket. You chew in silence. The gum loses its flavor in about 10 seconds. It still feels like a luxury. The squad regroups in a cabbage field. Someone makes a joke. Guess we're fighting the salad war now. No one laughs, but no one groans either. It's a sound. That's all that matters. The new officer arrives with orders. He's young. Too clean. He looks like he ironed his uniform in a tent. We've got a German observation post near the top of this hill, he says, tapping the map. We're going to take it out. He talks like he's narrating a training film. You hate him instantly, but you nod. Because that's what's expected. That's the choreography of war. The hill is steeper than it looks. Covered in tall grass and scattered stones. As you climb, your boots keep slipping, and your thighs burn. Charlie grunts behind you. His breathing is shallow, like he's trying not to alert the hill to your presence. You reach a hedgerow near the top and duck behind it. The officer signals a two-man recon. Of course it's you and Charlie. You crawl forward. The grass scratches at your neck and arms. Beetles scatter beneath your elbows. Your helmet bobs with each inch you gain. Then you see it. The observation post is a sandbag nest built into a tree stump. One man inside, scanning with binoculars. Another with a field radio. Both in uniform. Both unaware. You crawl back and report. The plan: flank right, eliminate both quietly, and signal the rest to advance. Charlie pulls out a knife. You don't ask where he got it. You move. Up close. War feels too intimate. The space between you and the enemy shrinks until you're sharing the same breath. Same dirt. Same heartbeat. You sneak behind the nest. Charlie goes left. You go right. 1. 2. The first man slumps before he even knows you're there. The second turns, eyes wide, mouth open. You don't wait for the shout. Your rifle bucks once. It's done. You signal the squad. they advance up the hill like ants. You sit down on a tree stump, you're shaking. Charlie offers a cigarette. You don't smoke, but you take it. By noon, the post is secure. The officer calls it a decisive tactical success. You call it another inch forward. You radio back to base. They ask if the post can be used. You say yes. They say hold it for the night. Of course, the squad builds crude defenses, sandbags, barbed wire, a lookout perch with field glasses. You pull guard duty with Charlie. 4-hour shifts. As the sun sets, the horizon glows pink and orange like the world is trying to apologize. It fails, but you appreciate the gesture. You pass the time naming clouds. One looks like a turtle. One like a frying pan. Charlie swears one looks like a jukebox. You disagree, but you let him have it. Night falls hard. No stars tonight. Cloud cover. Darkness settles in like fog. Thick, wet, and full of uncertainty. You hear something out there. Not close. But not far. A clank, a metallic groan, treads. You whisper to Charlie. He nods. You both crouch lower. Nothing comes. Not yet. You stay like that for an hour, still. Silent. Then a rabbit hops into view and freezes. You almost shoot it, almost, but not quite. You exhale. The rabbit disappears. You go back to watching. You rotate off duty at 3 a.m. Charlie stays on another hour. You lie down under a tarp, trying not to think, but thoughts come anyway. Of the beach, of the mud, of the boy who didn't wake up in St. Laurent. You wonder if he had a name. If someone back home still sets a place for him at dinner, you close your eyes and drift. Somewhere, a shell lands. Far off, you don't wake fully, just enough to tighten your grip on your rifle, just enough to remember where you are, just enough to forget what it felt like to be safe. You dream of bicycles, not riding them, just seeing one leaned against a garden fence. The kind with a wicker basket and a squeaky wheel. You don't know whose it is. Maybe your mother's. Maybe a girl from your neighborhood. But it's peaceful, then it's burning, and you wake up. Charlie nudges you. Dawn. You rub your face. Your mouth tastes like rust. The hill is still yours. For now. But something's coming. You can feel it. You stand slowly, brushing dew from your knees. The cold air hasn't lifted yet. It clings to your sleeves, your cheeks, even your breath, which fogs in front of you like a ghost not quite ready to leave. The eastern horizon is bruised with light. You can hear birds beginning to chatter, oblivious to the fact that today might be the end of something. Or the start of something worse. Charlie stretches his arms and groans. I think my spine forgot how to spine. You grunt in agreement and pull your jacket tighter. You both lean against the sandbag wall, watching the sky shift from gray to pink. A fox trots across the ridge below, quick and sure-footed, and disappears into the brush. Neither of you says anything for a moment. Then Charlie murmurs, I keep dreaming about trains. You look at him. He shrugs. Don't even like trains. But every night, it's the same. I'm on the platform. The train leaves without me. Or I leave and look back at everyone still standing there. You nod, not because you understand, but because it sounds like something worth nodding to. Your own dreams have no clear plot. Just flickers. Fire. Salt water. Screaming that might be your own. You try not to fall asleep during your shifts anymore. You reach for your canteen and take a sip of water. It's gone tepid again. The radio crackles behind you. New orders coming in. You and Charlie glance at each other like you always do. That silent exchange that means here we go again. Somewhere below the hill, the trees are shifting. Something is definitely coming. The day hasn't even begun properly, and already your heart knows it won't be kind. But you check your gear anyway, because that's what survival looks like now. You don't remember when it started. One moment the hilltop post was quiet, still waking from its shallow half-sleep. A few soft coughs, the buzz of a faulty field radio, the creak of boots over dry earth. And the next, explosions. not loud at first, but deliberate. Controlled, the first mortar round lands just beyond the eastern ridge, far enough not to kill, close enough to send a message. Dirt flies. Someone yells. You don't even remember standing up, but you're crouched behind the sandbags, hands shaking as your helmet slides half an inch down your brow. Charlie ducks beside you. Guess they found us. The second shell hits closer. This one sings on the way down, high, eerie, and distant, and lands with a sound like a collapsing house. The concussion flattens a row of bushes and rattles your teeth. You don't wait for the third. The officer is barking into the radio, demanding reinforcements, permission to withdraw, something. You don't catch the response. You already know what it is. Hold the hill, always, hold the hill. The third round hits the edge of the trench. You don't hear it so much as feel it. A pressure wave, a roar without sound. The world flashes white. Then you're on your back, ears ringing, mouth full of grit. Charlie grabs your collar and hauls you behind a section of broken timber. You both breathe hard, short, panicked gasps that don't feel like they're helping. You taste blood. You don't know whose. Someone's yelling for a medic. Someone else is returning fire blindly into the trees. You see muzzle flashes. Hear shouts in German. Close, too close, and then they're coming. The first wave crests the ridge like a nightmare. They move fast. Confident. Like they've done this before, which they probably have. You fire without thinking. Bolt action rhythm. Squeeze, chamber, breathe. You hit one. Maybe two. You'll never know. Charlie's next to you, swearing between shots. They hit your line hard. Grenades sail overhead. One bounces off the sandbags and lands 3 feet away. You dive. It explodes behind you. Your legs go numb, not broken. Just rattled. You crawl back into position and keep firing. A man in a gray coat gets within 20 feet. He raises a submachine gun. Charlie takes him down. No time to say thank you. The officer dies screaming. A sniper catches him through the neck. Clean shot. You don't even know where it came from. 1 second he's waving his sidearm like a man possessed. The next, he's on the ground, legs kicking, voice gurgling out like a faucet. Someone drags his body behind the post. You don't look again. There's a strange sort of silence in that moment. Not from the guns, but inside your head. Like your brain just needs a timeout. Everything slows. The gunfire gets muffled. The chaos dims. For a few heartbeats, it's just you and your breath and the endless drumbeat in your chest. Then it snaps back. The war doesn't wait. Reinforcements arrive. Sort of. A half-track groans up the rear slope, 2 machine gunners riding exposed. The moment they reach the top, they lay down cover fire, sweeping arcs of bullets that chew through the hedgerow like angry bees. You use the distraction to crawl forward, grab more ammo from the fallen officer's bag, and dive into a better firing angle. Charlie shouts something, points. Another squad is flanking from the tree line. Not yours, German. You shift aim and fire again, and again. At some point, your rifle jams. You curse and drop it, drawing the sidearm you've never once used in training. It's heavier than you expect. The fighting lasts hours, or maybe 20 minutes. Time loses meaning when every heartbeat feels like a minute. At some point, the firing stops, just stops, not because you've won, but because they've pulled back. Silence descends again, thick and absolute. Like the air itself is stunned. You don't move at first, can't. Your hands are locked around your pistol. Your knees are buried in splinters. Your ears are still ringing. Charlie slides down beside you, face gray with soot, blood streaked across one temple. He grins. I think we scared them off. You don't smile, you nod, then you throw up. After the medics arrive, you help move the bodies. There are too many. Some you know. Some you don't. Some don't have faces left to know. You don't look them in the eyes. You start with the ones furthest from the post. Stack them gently. Try not to let the limbs tangle. A chaplain mumbles something nearby, but the words don't reach you. One of the medics offers you a cigarette, you take two, Charlie lights one for you with shaking fingers, you both sit on the edge of the trench. Boots dangling into the dirt, still here, he says, barely. The hill smells like blood and diesel, the post won't be held. HQ decides it's no longer strategically viable. You want to scream. Want to throw your rifle into the crater and walk west until you reach the sea, but you don't, orders are orders, so you march again, back down the hill. Back into the trees. Back into the thick, green tunnels of hedgerow that no longer feel magical, just claustrophobic. You pass a field littered with ration tins and broken helmets. The remains of someone else's battle. The war feels endless. Like a forest with no center, Charlie stumbles, you catch his arm, you don't speak. You just keep walking, you're sent to dig in outside Trevieres, another town. Another map dot. Another assignment, you're too tired to ask what the goal is, they pair you with a new squad. Fresh faces. Some smiling. Some shaking. One kid, maybe 17, keeps asking if you think it'll be over soon. You don't answer him, instead, you show him how to jam a helmet into the dirt as a brace for your rifle. How to wet a bandage strip so it sticks better. How to move through grass without sounding like a stampede. He nods a lot, he reminds you of yourself, 3 days ago. You dig your foxhole deeper, the earth here is dense with roots. Every swing of the shovel hits resistance. You want to believe they're tree roots. Not bones. Not spent shell casings. But the line between nature and destruction feels thin now. Charlie digs beside you, neither of you talks much anymore, you hear gunfire in the distance. Maybe friendly. Maybe not, you tune it out, instead, you watch a snail inch across a leaf near your boot. It's slow. Pointless. Beautiful in its absurdity, you envy it, it doesn't know what a grenade is, it doesn't dream about bullets, you get mail, not much. Just a note, from your sister, it's short. Mostly small talk. The weather. The neighbors. A new dog at the house down the street, she doesn't ask what it's like, she doesn't say she misses you, but at the end, there's a line, Mom still sets a place for you at dinner. You fold the letter carefully and tuck it into your shirt pocket, you don't cry, you want to, but your body is too tired, the tears stay somewhere inside. Waiting for a safer time, a quieter place, that night, the lieutenant orders a patrol, you and Charlie go, of course, the hedgerows at dusk feel haunted. Like walking through the ribs of some ancient beast. Shadows stretch long. The air smells like damp metal, you hear an owl, you hear nothing else, the patrol circles the perimeter. Checks for signs of movement, scans the fields, there's nothing, you turn back, halfway home, Charlie stops, he points, a tripwire, so thin you almost missed it, you both freeze, he motions, mine, you nod, you trace it back, careful, deliberate, it leads to a charge packed into an old wine bottle, improvised, smart, you cut the wire, disarm the bottle, you bury it beneath a rock, silently, you resume your walk. Neither of you says a word the rest of the night, you sleep in. Shifts, 3 hours on. 3 off, the sky above is clear again, stars so sharp they almost hurt to look at, you name a few. Give them the names of people you've lost. Names you can't say aloud anymore because they hurt too much, Charlie mumbles in his sleep beside you, a child's name, a dog's, you can't tell, you close your eyes and let the war fade for a few breaths, just a few, long enough to dream of trains again, except this time, you're already on board, and someone's waiting at the station, the morning brings fog, not the poetic kind that curls softly through trees and makes you feel contemplative. No, this is the wet, smothering kind that erases everything more than 5 feet away and makes your socks even damper than they already were. You wake to the hiss of water dripping from leaves. The distant clunk of a mess tin, and Charlie trying to light a match with frozen fingers, He gives up after the third try and curses softly. You offer your lighter. He nods his thanks, then grins, good weather for getting shot at. You grunt. It's become a morning ritual now, exchange a grim joke, look around for snipers, pretend breakfast doesn't taste like shoe leather. Your body's sore in places you didn't even know could ache. Your shoulder burns from yesterday's recoil, your thighs feel like they've aged 20 years overnight, and your feet. Well, you try not to think about your feet anymore. Command says you're pushing through Trevieres today. The town is lightly defended, which means they don't really know and are hoping for the best. Historians still argue whether Trevieres had any real tactical value. Some claim it was just a waypoint, an inconvenient choke point on the road east. Others think it mattered more symbolically, that holding it would boost morale and momentum after the hellscape of Omaha. You don't have time to debate it. All you know is, the push starts in 20 minutes, you pack your things like it's just another Tuesday, you're assigned to 3rd Platoon today. Charlie stays with you, thank God. You don't say it. But when the officer reads off the assignments and you hear his name, something in you unclenches. He claps you on the back and says, "Can't get rid of me that easy." The platoon sets off in staggered files. Trevieres lies about a mile east, over a series of low ridges and farm plots. The hedgerows make the landscape feel like a maze. You can't see 50 yards ahead, but you can feel things moving. You've learned to read the air by now, how the wind changes when artillery's incoming, how even birds go quiet before an ambush. Halfway to the town, you pass a field that looks like it was once beautiful. Rows of lavender, now trampled. A wrought iron gate, bent at an awkward angle. A bicycle frame twisted into the trunk of a tree. You wonder if the owner ever made it out. You keep moving. You reach the outer edge of Trevieres just before noon. Smoke curls up from the chimneys. Yes, actual chimneys. A few buildings are still standing, including a church with a spire cracked clean in half like a snapped pencil. No signs of civilians. You fan out. Charlie takes the left side of the street. You go right. Every door is a maybe. Every window is a barrel waiting to blink. You approach the first house slowly. Wood frame. Shutters blown open. You press your ear to the wall and hear nothing. Not even rats. The door creaks open under your boot. Inside, overturned chairs. Muddy footprints, a broken mirror, but no people. You clear the rooms anyway, no movement. Just echoes. The silence in towns like this is worse than the noise. It's like the buildings remember the lives that were once inside and are trying not to scream about it. The shot cracks down the road, everyone drops. You crawl to the nearest doorway and peek out. A German MG nest has been set up behind a collapsed storefront. Clever, almost invisible until it opened fire. 2 of your men are down. A third is pinned behind an overturned truck. You and Charlie look at each other. You know what has to happen. Flank left. Get close. End it. You nod and move, through back alleys and shattered homes. Past laundry lines still strung with socks. A photograph trampled in the mud, 3 children smiling. A piano with broken keys. You don't let your eyes linger. You hear the machine gun above you now. Charlie signals 3 fingers. Countdown. 3, 2, 1. You storm the back of the shop. The first man turns too late. Charlie takes him down. The second raises his hands. He's maybe 17. You hesitate. He twitches. You shoot. He falls backward, eyes wide. You don't breathe for 10 seconds. Then you reload. Trevieres is cleared by sundown, mostly. You take up position in what used to be a bakery. The shelves are blackened, the glass shattered. There's still flour dust in the air. Someone jokes about making biscuits. No one laughs. You sit with your back against the counter and peel off your socks. Blisters the size of coins. You pour iodine on them and grit your teeth. Charlie throws you half a roll of bandage from his kit. Outside, someone's tuning a radio. The crackle of static rises, then suddenly, music. Actual music. A few bars of something slow and wistful. Then the signal fades again, you close your eyes and let those few seconds echo in your chest, then the captain walks in, new objective, he says, of course, we're holding here tonight, but command wants recon eastward, toward the bridge at the Ore River. We suspect demolition charges. You and Charlie are the obvious picks, you try to act flattered, he briefs you quickly. 2 miles out. Confirm whether the bridge is intact. Do not engage unless necessary. Radio back before dawn, he doesn't say good luck, no one does anymore, you move out under the cover of dusk, the hedgerows are deeper here, almost tunnel-like. The air smells like moss and gun oil. You tread carefully, ears tuned for anything out of place, half an hour in, you spot a rabbit, it stares at you, motionless, then darts off, you and Charlie freeze. Then you hear it, voices, low. German, you duck behind a ridge and peer through a tangle of brush, 2 soldiers standing on the bridge. One smoking. The other fiddling with a metal box, probably a detonator, you whisper, they're planning to blow it. Charlie nods, what now? You think, you're not equipped to stop them. Just to report. But if they blow the bridge, your division's advance stalls. Maybe for days, you check your watch, 1:47 a.m., Charlie looks at you. We have time. You both know what that means, you circle wide, use the fog, use the trees, use your nerves, by 2:10, you're within 30 feet of them. Close enough to see the glint of sweat on the one holding the detonator. Charlie gestures, you take left, I take right, you nod, he moves, but the man hears him. Just a scuffle, a boot against gravel, he turns, yells, raises his weapon, you fire first, your bullet hits center chest, he drops like a marionette whose strings just got cut, Charlie tackles the second one, they wrestle briefly, grunting, fists landing heavy, then, silence, Charlie stands, got him, he says, panting, you grab the detonator and throw it into the river, the bridge is safe, for now. You don't talk much on the way back, the fog's thick again, it sticks to your eyelashes, you reach Trevieres just as the sky begins to lighten, a soft pink, mocking how violent the world just was. The captain nods as you hand him the report, well done. He says it like he means it, you just sit down, pull off your boots again, and breathe. Charlie passes you the last piece of chocolate he's been hoarding, you break it in half, eat in silence, then, because there's nothing else to do, you lie back on the floor and stare at the ceiling beams, you count them, 1, 2, 3, you lose track by 7, your fingers are still trembling, but you made it, again, somehow. You're learning that war is made up of 2 things, moments of pure terror and long stretches of monotony spiked with dread. This morning is the second kind, you sit outside what's left of the Trevieres bakery, chewing something that claims to be ham and egg but tastes more like wet cardboard with ambition. Charlie's next to you, cleaning his rifle with the kind of focus usually reserved for bomb defusal or threading a needle blindfolded. Neither of you says much. There's nothing new to say, a jeep rattles down the main road, kicking up dust and pieces of someone's former fence. The driver waves lazily. You half-heartedly wave back, you should feel relief. You cleared the bridge. Your platoon isn't dead. And, for once, you had a night without incoming artillery or someone screaming in the distance. But all that peace feels borrowed. Like it was never yours to keep, orders come before you finish eating, today, you're pushing north. Toward a place called Formigny. You've heard of it, not from the army, but from a guy back at camp who swore the village is haunted. Something about a massacre there centuries ago. French on French violence. Screams that never stopped. Charlie said that guy probably just had trench foot in his brain, still, you remember the name, and now you're going there, because the war says so. You head out around noon, the sun's a half-hearted thing today, hiding behind clouds but still managing to sweat everyone through their uniforms. The hedgerows are denser in this region, more overgrown. It feels like walking through the veins of some great beast that's long since died, Charlie mutters, "Welcome to the jungle." You chuckle, even though it's not funny. The squad moves in a long staggered column, weapons at the ready. Someone's humming behind you. A song you don't recognize. Probably just something to keep the fear from chewing too loudly. You pass the remnants of a cart, half buried in a ditch. A single boot sits beside it. No foot inside, but the implication's enough. No one stops to investigate. The ambush hits an hour in. You should have seen it coming. The hedgerows are too perfect here, symmetrical, controlled. You step into a clearing and, crack, someone drops. No warning. No shout, then everything explodes, gunfire from the trees. Mortars from the left. Dirt flies into your face. You hit the ground so hard you bite your tongue, blood floods your mouth. Metallic. Warm, you crawl behind a chunk of old stone wall and return fire, blind. Charlie dives in next to you, breathing hard, eyes wide. "They knew we were coming," he says between gasps. You don't reply. You're too busy counting. 1, 2, 3, movement by the oak tree. You fire, someone screams, you don't know who. It lasts 20 minutes, maybe more. You lose track after the third explosion. At one point, you can't hear anything but the high-pitched ringing in your ears and the thudding of your own heart. A grenade lands behind you, but doesn't go off. A dud. Or a miracle. Eventually, the firing slows. Then stops. The smoke hangs low, like the ground itself is trying to hide what happened here. You stand slowly. It's quiet, too quiet. You glance around. 7 of your squad are down. 3 won't get back up. You see a helmet smoking like a candle. Charlie helps you to your feet, still here. He says, "It feels like a curse this time. Formigny is closer than expected." You reach it by late afternoon, limping and blood-soaked, dragging what supplies you can from fallen packs. The village looks like it hasn't seen people in days. Or years. It's eerily intact, windows unbroken. Laundry lines still strung, but no sound, no birds. No dogs. No wind. You check houses. Doors are open. Meals half finished. One table has cards still laid out mid-hand. You find a teacup with lipstick on the rim, still warm. They left in a hurry, or didn't leave at all. You reach the church at the center of town. Its doors are wide open. Inside, pews are overturned. A crucifix hangs sideways on one nail. The smell of incense lingers beneath something sharper, gunpowder, maybe. You take a cautious step forward, then another. There are scratch marks on the floor near the altar. You don't ask. You don't want answers. You set up camp in the town square. A fountain gurgles faintly nearby, one of the few things still working. The men fill their canteens cautiously, watching the windows. The sun begins to sink, casting the stone buildings in orange and gold. For a moment, it almost looks peaceful. You sit with your back to the bakery wall, yes, another bakery, and press a rag to your temple. You didn't even realize you'd been hit. Just a graze, but it stings now that everything's calming down. Charlie throws you a tin of beans. You catch it on reflex. "Chef special," he says. Dented metal, hint of dirt. You raise it in mock toast. Neither of you laughs. Later that night, a guy named Thompson starts telling stories, just quietly, to whoever's nearby, about his girl back home, about his dad's car, about his brother, who joined the Navy and swore he'd never get seasick but puked all over a French dock last week. The men around him chuckle softly. Not because it's funny. Because it feels good to pretend. You listen with your eyes closed. Charlie leans back beside you, arms behind his head. "I used to think history class was boring," he says. "Now I'd kill to sit in one again. Just, not this kind of field trip." You smirk. Then go quiet, because you remember something else. Historians still debate whether the US advance through Formigny actually had a strategic purpose. Some argue it was a diversion. Others insist it was just poor coordination, orders from above with no idea what waited below. You don't care, all you know is that something about this place feels wrong, like you're not supposed to be here. At midnight, it begins, not with an explosion. Not with a shot, but with a scream, high. Piercing. Human, maybe. You bolt upright, rifle in hand. The scream comes again. From the church, several men are already on their feet. You all move as one, instincts honed by weeks of fear and adrenaline. You reach the door just as it swings shut on its own. Inside, nothing, no person. No movement. Just overturned pews, candle stubs, and that same eerie smell. You scan every corner. Charlie whispers, maybe it was an animal. You want to believe that, you really do. The captain calls it a hallucination. Everyone's tired. Stressed. Seeing shadows where there are none. You agree out loud, but privately, you're not so sure, because that night, as you finally close your eyes again, you hear footsteps, not booted, barefoot, slow, deliberate. They stop beside your cot. You don't open your eyes. You just hold your breath and pray the dawn comes quickly. It does, sort of. The sun rises weakly, painting the stones pink and gray. You survived the night, you think, but Formigny lingers in your chest like a weight. You can't shake it. Neither can the others. Everyone's quieter today. More alert. You all pack quickly, rifles gripped a little tighter than usual. Charlie sidles up to you as you leave the square. We're not dead, he says. You nod. Yet, you march east again, boots slapping against the cobblestones, hearts beating like muffled drums. The church bell tolls once behind you. You didn't touch it, and no one stayed behind. You don't turn around. You just keep walking, because you're afraid of what you'll see if you do. By midday, Formigny is behind you, but not far enough. You still feel it in the tightness of your shoulders, the way your hand keeps straying to your rifle even when the woods are quiet. Charlie hasn't said a word in over an hour. That's not like him. Normally, he'd be complaining about the rations or cracking some terrible joke about the army's idea of navigation. Instead, he just walks. Eyes on the dirt. Hands loose but ready. You pass a broken stone marker at a fork in the path. It's old, older than any of you. The inscription is worn smooth, but the year is still visible, 1476. You pause, just for a second. Charlie stops too. Another war, huh? You nod, different uniforms. Same ghosts. As you move on, you try to imagine what it must have been like back then. Armor instead of Kevlar. Swords instead of rifles. Horses instead of trucks. But the fear? Probably the same. That feeling that someone is always watching you through the trees. That death could be waiting just 5 steps ahead. You reach a ridge overlooking a narrow valley. The valley isn't silent, it's hushed. Like a theater just before the curtain lifts. The breeze rolls down in lazy spirals, tugging at the grass but refusing to disturb anything deeper. Your boots sink slightly in the soft earth. Not quite mud, not quite dry, just that middle ground that always makes you nervous. Ground that holds weight. You and Charlie stick to the edges, slipping through pockets of shade. The slope levels out quickly, and that's when you see it, an overturned cart near a half-collapsed barn. The kind of scene you'd expect in a painting of rustic France. If the painting came with bullet holes. There's no movement, but you don't trust it. You signal Charlie, 2 fingers. Move right. He nods and melts into the hedgerow like he's been doing this all his life. You creep forward. The barn side is shredded, wood splintered, roof slouched. One of the wheels on the cart is still spinning, even though there's no wind strong enough to push it. You stare at it too long, and suddenly the air feels different again. Charged, you press yourself against the barn wall and peer through a crack in the boards, empty, or seems to be. You push the door open slowly. it groans like something dying. Inside, there's nothing but old straw, 2 rusted milk cans, and the shattered remnants of a chicken coop. Dust hangs in the air, catching the light like ash. Your fingers tighten around your rifle as you sweep the corners. Still nothing. You exhale. Maybe this place really is abandoned. Then you hear it, a cough. Not yours, not Charlie's. Close, too close. You drop instantly, back to the wall. Eyes wide. Charlie's already returning, rifle up, silent as a whisper. You hold up one hand. He freezes, another cough, this time followed by a groan. It's coming from the far side of the barn. Beneath the floorboards, Charlie gestures. Check, you nod. You enter together, weapons raised. It takes a moment to find the hatch. It's half covered by straw, with an old padlock that's already been broken. You open it slowly, the wood creaking like it hasn't moved in years. Inside, stairs. Rough-hewn, narrow. Smells like sweat, piss, and mold. You descend one at a time. The basement is low-ceilinged, stone-walled, damp, and in the corner, a soldier, German, barely more than a boy, maybe 18, his leg is clearly broken. A splint made from a shovel and some wire. His rifle's across the room, out of reach. He looks up when you enter, pale and terrified. He lifts both hands slowly. You freeze. Charlie lifts his weapon. You whisper, "Don't." The boy's lips move. English. Barely, "Please, water." You look at Charlie. He frowns. Trap. You shrug. Maybe, but something in the kid's face, it doesn't read as soldier anymore, just human. You give him a sip from your canteen. He drinks greedily, then coughs hard enough to bend double. When he sits back up, he looks older somehow. Like the war aged him faster than it did you. His name is Lucas. He says he was part of a recon patrol. Got separated. Took shrapnel to the leg 2 nights ago and crawled here. He thought this place was empty. He was right, until now. You ask if there are others nearby. He shakes his head. Swears he's alone. War is finished for me, he says softly. Charlie looks skeptical, but doesn't raise his gun again. You nod. For now, he's not a threat, just another casualty of this long, stupid war. You leave him with a bandage and half a chocolate bar. Charlie stares at you when you're back outside. You're getting soft. You shrug. Maybe. You know he could have lied. He did. About something, probably. Charlie sighs. Doesn't mean we should leave him. You raise an eyebrow. You just said, "Yeah," he mutters. Shut up. You both laugh. It's quiet. Dry, but it counts. You push east again. No orders. No contact from HQ in hours. The radio's working, technically, but no one's answering. You don't like it. Neither does Charlie. You keep checking the treetops for antenna glints, trying to decide if someone's listening or if you've just been forgotten. You pass through another village, not even marked on the map. 3 houses, a church no larger than a garage, and a cow chewing its cud in the middle of the street like it owns the place. Charlie mutters, "At least someone's still home." You move through it carefully. No signs of life. No tracks, nothing to mark time. Only one thing stands out. There's a doll hanging from a tree near the chapel. Its clothes are faded, and someone's drawn a mustache on it in charcoal. It sways in the breeze, its eyes painted wide with surprise. Charlie stares for a long time. You walk on. The fields grow wider, the hedgerows thin. You're nearing the edge of the front, at least for today. Smoke on the horizon suggests something's burning. Maybe a fuel depot. Maybe a village. You don't ask. You find an abandoned tank near a ditch. American. Still smoldering, no bodies, though, just helmets in the grass, scattered like coins in a wishing well. Charlie steps carefully, scanning for mines. You crouch by the tank and place your hand on the warm metal. There's blood, still tacky, fresh. Whoever was here, it wasn't long ago. You radio in again. Still nothing. The silence hums louder than the static. As dusk settles, you find shelter in a farmhouse. Not bombed, not ransacked, just, still, like the world forgot it. You enter through the back. The table is set for 4, bread still on the counter, butter knife left at an angle like someone just stepped out for a moment. You check every room. No people, just signs, shoes near the door, a scarf on a chair, a rosary on the bedpost. You sit, and suddenly feel like crying, but you don't. You just close your eyes for a second, a long second. Charlie finds a pantry with canned peaches. You share one tin by candlelight, each eating directly from the metal with army spoons. It's the best thing you've tasted in weeks. That night, you sleep in beds, real beds, no foxhole. No tarp, clean sheets that smell faintly of lavender and ash. You lie back and stare at the ceiling. It's too quiet, too soft. You don't trust it. Charlie mumbles something in his sleep. A name, maybe. You think about the German boy in the basement, about the tank, the helmets, the doll, all these fragments. No one ever tells you how war is really a collection of moments that don't add up to a story. Not one that makes sense, anyway. Just scattered images you'll carry forever like shrapnel under the skin. You wonder which moment will be your last. You hope it's not in a place like this. Too quiet, too clean. You fall asleep with your rifle on your chest. Morning arrives as a whisper, light through broken blinds. You wash your face with water from a bucket and eat the last of the peaches cold. Charlie hands you instant coffee powder and shrugs. No cups. You eat it straight. Bitter. Like licking a battery, you lace your boots slowly, because you know what comes next. You always know. The orders arrive at 0900, back to the front, west this time. A change in command. They say, consolidate gains, prepare for next advance. You look at Charlie. He just nods, because of course. You step back into the daylight, and march, again, like always. You don't talk much as you go, no songs. No jokes, just the sound of boots, the occasional bird, and the far-off boom of a new fight. The road turns. Trees close in. The hedgerows return. You're back where it began, or maybe you never left. It's hard to tell anymore, because when you're in it, really in it, war doesn't feel like a sequence of events. It feels like a loop. Same mud, same fear, same ghosts whispering through the branches. But you keep walking, because there's nothing else to do. Just walk, and hope you're not next. You pass a sign on the road, hand-painted, crooked, half-charred. It says, "You are now leaving hell." Charlie stops to stare at it. Funny, he mutters, "I didn't realize we'd left." You smirk, but the weight of his words settles over both of you. It's the kind of joke that isn't one. You walk on, but the sign stays with you. Just before the next bend, you spot a tree that's been carved with names. Dozens of them. Some in French. Some in English. A few in German, initials. Dates. One message says, "I was here." Still am. You trace your finger across it. Fresh. Less than a week old. Charlie reads over your shoulder. Think they made it? You don't answer. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. That's the thing about this war. Survival isn't a finish line. It's just the space between tragedies. And there's always another name waiting to be carved. You sling your rifle back over your shoulder and keep moving, not because you want to, but because stopping feels like giving up, and you're not ready to carve your name into that tree just yet. Maybe tomorrow, maybe never, but not today. Today, you walk. The rain comes in sideways, not the clean, cinematic kind that patters romantically on rooftops. No, this rain hits like it's angry with you specifically. Cold needles that pierce the collar of your jacket, find your spine, and settle deep into the crevices of your already frosted bones. You're soaked within minutes, even your socks. Especially your socks. You keep walking. There's no shelter along this stretch of road, just a winding dirt track flanked by low stone walls and trees that bend under the weight of the wind. Every few hundred meters, you see remnants of the war, an axle from a blown-out truck, a scorched stretch of roadside, a helmet resting upside down like an offering. Charlie mutters something about trench foot in stereo. You nod grimly. Your feet stopped feeling like feet 2 hours ago. The rain won't let up, neither will command. You're pushing northeast today. Another village. Another strategic asset. You can't even remember the name. They all blur together now, like some cruel memory game where every card says ruins underneath. You pass a signpost near a collapsed barn. It reads, Moatis, 5 kilometers. Charlie squints. Sounds made up. You glance at him. All of this does. You stop around noon, not because you're told to, but because someone collapses. A kid, maybe 20, goes down face first into the mud, rifle still slung neatly across his back. He doesn't get up. You and Charlie rush over. He's breathing, barely. Feverish. Eyes glassy. He tries to speak but can't. Heatstroke. Someone guesses, in this weather. Someone else snaps. A medic kneels beside him, mutters something about infection. Blood poisoning maybe. You hear the words appendix and too far gone. He's stabilized enough to be dragged under a wagon tarp. The officer calls for a halt. 15 minutes. No one argues. You take shelter under a lean-to made of canvas and tree limbs. It's barely enough to stop the rain from running directly down your nose, but it helps. Charlie shares the last of his hard candy ration, root beer flavored. You'd almost forgotten about flavor. You let it sit on your tongue, eyes closed, listening to the rain hammer the trees. I had a plan, Charlie says. You glance over. What kind of plan? Like, before all this. I was gonna be a mechanic. Work in my uncle's garage. Grease, oil, busted carburetors. Nothing fancy. You nod. Better than this. Yeah, he says, then smirks. But the view sucks. You both laugh quietly, then you stare out at the mud again, because what else is there? The March resumes. The rain slows to a drizzle, then tapers off entirely, leaving behind an eerie sort of quiet. Like the world's holding its breath. That's never a good sign. By late afternoon, you reach the outskirts of Moatis, or what's left of it. This place didn't burn, it crumbled. Walls fallen in on themselves, roads cracked open like a dried riverbed. You see a sign still dangling from one post, École de Garçons. Boys' school. Someone points out the playground behind it, swings, rusted stiff, a seesaw, a little wooden horse with one eye missing. Charlie sighs. This used to be someone's normal. You nod slowly. Now it's just evidence. You take up position near the church. Of course it's the tallest building. Of course it has a bell tower. And of course someone decides it would make a perfect lookout point. You draw the short straw. The stairs are narrow and slick with moss. It smells like mildew, candle wax, and something older. You pass broken statues, saints with their faces cracked, a Madonna with her hands missing. Light filters in through a shattered stained glass window, casting bruised color on the walls. You reach the top and peer out. The view is sad. Fields stretch endlessly, pockmarked with old shell craters. A farmhouse burns in the distance, smoke trailing into a sky too tired to care. A horse stands in a field with no fence, just staring at nothing. You radio down. No movement. Copy that. Comes the crackled reply. You stay a while longer anyway. There's something about being this high up that feels wrong. Like you've escaped the rules of the war for a moment and now you're tempting fate. Then you see it. Movement. Just a flicker. At the edge of the tree line. Too far to make out clearly. Might be a scout. Might be your imagination. But you've learned to trust flickers. You mark it on your map and descend. Your boots echo hollow against the stone. Outside, Charlie's waiting. You explain what you saw. He frowns. Recon. Or someone watching us. Either way, command wants it investigated, and you already know who they'll send. you move out at dusk. Just you, Charlie, and a third guy named Dwyer. Young. Nervous. Smells vaguely like cabbage for some reason. He talks too much at first, asks about your hometown, whether you ever saw combat before Normandy. If you believe in ghosts, you tell him to save his breath. Charlie just grins. If the ghosts didn't get you in Formigny, they're probably not interested. Dwyer pales, you press forward into the trees, the woods are thick here. No birds. No wind. Just the crunch of your boots and the soft click of Charlie's lighter as he thumbs it open and shut like a nervous tick. You reach the spot where you saw movement. There's nothing, just a line of flattened grass, like someone laid down. Waited, then ran. Charlie crouches. Footprints. One person. You both follow, quietly, deliberately. The trail leads you to a shallow cave in a hillside, barely a cave, really, more of an overhang with a dark mouth. Charlie signals, "Cover me." You raise your rifle. He slips inside. 30 seconds pass. Then, clear. You join him. Inside is cramped. Smells like damp wool and cigarettes. A few wrappers, a water canteen, and a field radio, German make. Someone was here recently. Someone listening. Dwyer whistles. We found a listening post. You nod, then your blood runs cold, because you see something else, a sketch. Pinned to the cave wall with a twig, it's of your squad. From behind, whoever was here watched you, for days, maybe longer. Charlie burns the sketch. You destroy the radio. No one's allowed to know how much they knew. You head back under cover of darkness, nerves crackling like live wire. No one speaks, not even Dwyer. You reach Moatis just after midnight. The others are asleep, or pretending. You don't sleep. You stare at the ceiling. Every creak sounds like a boot step. Every gust of wind feels like a breath on your neck. You're not sure if you're scared, or just awake. The next day, you dig in, sandbags. Trenches. Overwatch stations. The lieutenant says there's an enemy patrol expected by morning. Could be light, could be the whole forest. No one knows. That's the theme of this war. No one knows. You fill sandbags with hands that barely work. Charlie hums softly beside you, some jazz tune he can't remember the name of. You let the rhythm carry you. Not because it helps, but because it's something. When the trench is finished, you sit inside it like a coffin and eat cold beans with your fingers. Across the field, a deer wanders past. You envy it. It doesn't know sides, or ranks, just survival. Morning arrives in fog, thick and wet. You hear them before you see them, boots. Rustling. The faint mechanical clink of weapons. You raise your rifle. Charlie raises his. Dwyer adjusts his helmet with shaking hands. They step into view. 5. Maybe 6, scouting ahead. One carries a flare gun. You aim carefully. Hold, then, the snap of a twig. Dwyer. He swears under his breath. The Germans here. Turn, raise rifles. You fire. It's over in seconds. For drop. One runs. Charlie hits him in the back. The flare falls harmlessly to the grass. Dwyer stares at his hands, trembling. You okay? You ask. He nods too fast. Yeah, I'm fine. He's not, but who is? You search the bodies. Nothing useful, except a map. Charlie reads it aloud. They were planning to surround the village, a full unit. You got them first. That's something. You think, maybe, later, a truck arrives. Replacement rations. Ammo. A medic with kind eyes who gives you gauze and a candy bar without asking your name. You eat it slowly, savor every bite. It tastes like memory, like before. Charlie finishes his and grins. Think I'm gonna open that garage after this? You nod. You'll need a sign. Charlie's auto. Got a ring to it. You smile, because for a second, you believe him. Then you hear the shell whine. It comes out of nowhere, a single artillery shell, too fast to react. It lands 20 yards away. The blast hits you like a train. You don't remember hitting the ground, just the ringing, and then, darkness. You wake up in a medical tent, pain everywhere, your ears buzz like a hornet's nest. Your leg feels wrong. Heavy, you try to move, can't, a nurse notices, she calls someone over, a man in a cap leans in, you're lucky, he says, you don't feel lucky, you ask about Charlie, the man hesitates, then shakes his head, you close your eyes, and pretend you didn't hear that, the next day's blur, bandages. Injections. Waking up in the middle of the night gasping for breath, you dream of the cave, of the sketch, of Charlie's grin, you don't leave the cot, can't, won't, a chaplain visits. Talks about closure, you ask if he believes in ghosts, he says yes, quietly, you appreciate that, you're discharged 2 weeks later, sent west, not home, just somewhere new to hold, they give you crutches, a medal you don't care about, and a map with new objectives. You don't ask questions, you just nod, because it's what you're supposed to do, because you're still alive, for now, and so, you march again, slower, different, alone. But forward, because war doesn't end. When the battle stops, it just changes shape, and you keep moving, one step at a time, through fog, through silence, through the ghosts who still walk beside you. There's no ceremony when you rejoin the line. No applause. No, thank you for your service. Just another truck, another pile of gear, and another set of orders that start with advance and end with occupy and hold. Your new unit doesn't know your name. They call you Walker after the crutches you ditched a week ago, stubbornly trading them for a limp. You prefer it that way. It gives them something to say that isn't sorry about your leg or you doing okay, buddy. You don't want sympathy. You want distance. The landscape's changing now, gone are the cramped hedgerows and tight lanes that funneled death toward you like a wind tunnel. This part of Normandy is flatter, wider. The towns are more spread out. Their stone cottages giving way to longer farmhouses and wheat fields that stretch into haze. Less cover. More risk, but you're used to that. Your new squad leader's a guy named Henderson. Broad shoulders, buzz cut, and a face like a concrete slab. He talks in short bursts, mostly commands, some curses, rarely jokes, the others follow his lead, so do you. It's easier that way. The next operation is deceptively simple, secure a crossroads north of St. Lo. There's talk that a German retreat column might move through there, armored transport, a few tanks, maybe even a command car. Intelligence is vague, as always. No one actually knows what's waiting up ahead, but the map says it's important. And the map always wins. You start moving before dawn, the morning is gray, heavy with moisture and that strange stillness that always precedes something terrible. You eat cold rations as you walk, tearing open packets with your teeth and chewing without tasting. It's just fuel now. A kid named Morales walks beside you. Nervous energy bundled into a small frame. He talks more than he should, stories about baseball, his sister's wedding, a dog named Toby. You don't mind. It's better than silence. He asks if you were at the beach on D-Day, you nod once, he doesn't ask for details. Smart kid, you reach the outskirts of the crossroads by mid-morning. The fields give way to a few outbuildings, a barn, a farmhouse, a tool shed with its roof half collapsed. Smoke curls faintly in the distance. Someone's cooking. Or burning something. Henderson halts the group with a raised fist. Everyone drops into a crouch like dominoes falling. You scan the area, no movement, no birds, just that thick hush again. You hate that sound. He sends you and Morales forward to scout the eastern approach. Low crawl through high grass. The stalks slap your face, damp and itchy. Your leg protests every movement, but you grind through it. At the fence line, you freeze. There's a German half-track parked just behind the barn. Empty, but fresh tracks lead away from it. Several sets. You signal. Contact. Morales nods and taps the radio. Henderson replies. Hold position. You hold. You hate holding. The others flank around. You wait in the grass, heart thudding so loudly you're sure it must be audible. Morales beside you is stone still. You've underestimated him. When he's not talking, he's pure focus. Then a figure steps out of the barn, not in uniform, civilian clothes, muddy trousers, a heavy coat, scarf wrapped around the lower face. Arms raised, Morales whispers, French. You're not sure, they speak, but the words are muffled. You rise slowly, rifle trained but not aimed. The figure freezes. Then a second shape appears, clearly German. Rifle slung, hands up, they surrender, just like that. You call it in. There's a brief argument back at camp. Some think it's a trick. Henderson doesn't trust it. But the German's unarmed. The Frenchman speaks clearly now, claims to be part of the resistance. Says they were helping deserters escape through farm routes, says there's more coming. You can't verify any of it, but his papers check out. Or close enough for this part of the war, where verification is mostly about gut feeling and how tired your eyes are. They're detained. Tied, but loosely, you post guard. Morales offers the Frenchman a cigarette. The man smiles with a chipped tooth and mutters something about lucky Americans. You try to believe him. Night falls hard and fast. You're bivouacked near the barn, trying to get some sleep in the dirt. It's hard with the whispering. The other soldiers, the guards, even the prisoners. Everyone's got something to say when the lights go out. You catch snippets, swears there's a lieutenant hiding in the woods. Engine tracks looked fresh, but no fuel cans. Radio said the third got hit bad. You close your eyes, try to tune it out, but your ears stay sharp, because they have to. You wake before dawn. Not to gunfire, to silence, that wrong silence again. You sit up, the guards are asleep, the Frenchman and the German, gone, ropes cut, tracks lead north. Henderson's furious. The kind of fury that doesn't involve shouting, just a clenched jaw and a loaded rifle. He takes half the squad to pursue, leaves you behind to hold the crossroads. You're not happy about it, but you don't argue. You never argue anymore. The road is still empty by midday. You sit behind an overturned wagon, watching the horizon. The clouds are thick again, low and bruised looking. It's going to rain. Morales fiddles with his boots. I think they were telling the truth. You glance at him. He shrugs. No way, they look like spies. Just scared. Scared people run, you say. He nods, then adds, so do people with secrets. You chew on that for a while, because both things are true, and neither helps. By late afternoon, Henderson's team hasn't returned. That's the first bad sign. The second is the noise, a low rumble. Tank treads. You signal everyone into position. Eyes scan the tree line. Then, metal. Gray. Panzer IV, followed by infantry. Not many, but enough. You open fire. They return it. The battle is short, loud, and sharp. Smoke everywhere. Dirt in your teeth. Morales takes a graze to the arm, curses creatively. You drop one enemy behind a tree. Another behind the half-track. It feels like muscle memory now, until something explodes to your left. You hit the ground. You're okay, shaken, but not hurt. Morales helps you up. One of the other soldiers, Davenport, isn't moving. The enemy's retreating. No reinforcements come. You've held the crossroads. At a cost. You find Henderson's team the next morning, or what's left of them, ambushed. 3 dead. 2 wounded and unconscious. Henderson's missing, no sign of the prisoners, or who took them. You carry the bodies back. The wounded too. You don't speak. There's nothing left to say. Command decides the crossroads isn't important anymore. Of course, they redirect you south, toward another objective. Different trees. Different fields, same war. Morales limps now. You trade boots with him one day so his blister won't burst. He offers you his last chocolate bar. You both act like the exchange is even. The weather clears for one day, just one. You lie in a field under blue sky, try to remember what peace felt like. Morales hums a song. You close your eyes. and pretend the war's over, just for 5 minutes. That night, the sky burns orange, another town shelled. Not yours, this time. But close, you taste soot on the breeze, and for the first time in days. You feel something inside your chest again, not fear, not anger, just tired, the kind that doesn't go away with sleep. Morales says, I'm starting to forget their faces. You know what he means, it's not just the dead you lose, it's the living too, your old unit, Charlie, even yourself, somewhere back there in the hedgerows. You wonder if you'll find any of it again. The next few days pass in a blur, marching, digging, guard duty, sleep in short, unsatisfying bursts. You read a crumpled letter someone dropped, didn't even mean to steal it. Just found it in your coat pocket one night. It's from a girl named Lily, telling someone named Ben to come home safe. She's planting tulips. You don't know who Ben is, you don't know if he made it, but you fold the letter carefully and keep it in your pack, because it helps, more than the rations, more than the maps. It's proof someone's still planting flowers, somewhere. By the end of the week, you're told the Allies have pushed deeper inland. St. Lo is rubble now, but it's yours. Paris might be next. People start whispering the word victory. But you don't believe it, not yet, because victory never feels like this, not soaked, not sleepless, not with someone's blood still on your sleeve. You keep walking, because orders say so, because the war's not over, because you're still alive, and you don't know why, but for now, that has to be enough. You start noticing something odd, it creeps in slowly, like mildew on a basement wall. You can't pinpoint the moment it began, only that one day you wake up and realize, the war isn't disappearing. It's just moving out of frame. Shifting like fog. Not ending, just evolving into something new. You're still advancing. That's what the brass calls it. Advancing. A neat, efficient word, like progress is something you can measure in meters per day. But all it feels like is walking. Endlessly. With your boots slowly molding to your bones and your mind thinning like old canvas. Today it's a railway depot you're meant to secure. Tomorrow, probably a power station. Maybe a bridge. Who knows? You and Morales are still paired up. He walks slightly behind you now. He's quieter these days, which is saying something. He still hums sometimes, but the tune's not familiar anymore. You asked once, and he said he didn't remember where he heard it. Could have been his mom. Could have been a movie. Could have been his brain filling silence with whatever it could find. You didn't press. You haven't asked anyone why for a long time now. The depot is tucked into a shallow valley, ringed by poplars and pine. It's more substantial than you expected. Half a dozen sidings, a warehouse, rusting freight cars, and a concrete bunker half buried in a slope. Clearly German-built, the squad fans out. You, Morales, and two others, Levine and Polk, take the south entrance. It's dark inside. Cooler than the outside air, almost damp. Smells of creosote and diesel and something metallic that sticks to the roof of your mouth. You raise your rifle as you step over a tangle of wiring and into the depot. It's quiet, too quiet, of course, always is. You sweep left, Morales moves right. Your eyes adjust to the dim light. There's movement, a figure at the far end, not hostile, a civilian, old man, white hair, suspenders, stained shirt. He doesn't look surprised, or scared. He just nods at you like he's been expecting. You lower your rifle. He doesn't speak English. Morales tries some French. The old man shrugs, then, he says something in German. Not aggressive. Almost polite. Morales translates. He says we're late. You frown, late for what? The answer comes 5 minutes later. 3 more civilians appear, 2 women and a boy, maybe 15. They're carrying crates. Heavy ones. Marked with red crosses and the letters Krankenpflege, medical care. The old man gestures at the crates, then at a corner of the depot. You follow his lead, a hatch. You open it. steps down, a makeshift field hospital. It's small, more like a cellar with cots than a real ward, but it's full. 5 wounded men. 3 German, 2 French. 1 is unconscious. 1 is coughing hard enough to pull stitches loose. A woman in an apron is tending to them with a worn cloth and the last of her patients. You don't raise your weapon, neither does Morales. This isn't an enemy stronghold, it's a mercy station. Polk calls it in. Levine stands by the hatch, chewing his lip like he's not sure what he's supposed to do with this. Technically, they're enemy combatants, but they're also broken, bleeding, unarmed. Command says to detain them, the medics, too. The civilians, non-combatants, but report their movement. You do as you're told, sort of. You make a note in the log, but not the full note. You leave out the fever, the IVs, the smell of rotting flesh that means someone's probably dying and pretending not to be, because even now, there are some things not worth recording. Some people deserve to vanish cleanly. You stay one more night at the depot. The others set up camp near the old boxcars. You find a corner in the warehouse, away from the door, where you can see the sky through a patch of shattered ceiling. You sleep with your helmet as a pillow and your rifle across your chest. You dream of doors, endless doors, all slightly ajar. You're supposed to open one. You don't. You wake up shivering. Morales hands you tea he scrounged from somewhere. It's weak, almost clear, but hot. You sip it slowly and nod. That's enough, thanks. By noon, you're moving again, east, always east. The terrain shifts subtly. The air feels heavier, full of pollen and promise. Wheat fields sway like slow water. Birds have returned, mostly crows, but still. It's the first sign in weeks that nature doesn't care what you've done here. You pass through a village that wasn't bombed. Stone houses still stand, chimneys still smoke. A woman in a blue dress watches you from behind lace curtains. A boy waves. You wave back, unsure why. Morales says softly, they're rebuilding already. You nod, then, they never stopped. The next few days pass without incident. That in itself feels suspicious. A brief reprieve makes your nerves louder. Every stick snap, every shadow, every twitch of wind feels like a setup. You begin rehearsing what you'll do when it hits again, where you'll dive, who you'll grab, what you'll leave behind. That list gets longer each day. It includes most of yourself now. You finally get to rest in a real bed, not your bed. Not even a clean one. But a bed. It's in a farmhouse that's been mostly looted but still has intact walls. No roof, but the mattress is dry, and the wind is mild. You stretch out, boots off, and let your limbs sink into the sagging springs. It's a strange sensation, not comfort, more like absence of pain. You forgot what that feels like. Morales is humming again. He's carving something into the butt of his rifle. You ask what it is. He shows you, a daisy. You raise an eyebrow. He shrugs. There were daisies back home. You nod. You don't tell him daisies mean farewell in some cultures. It doesn't feel like the right time. The next morning, the orders shift again. You're not advancing today. You're holding, digging in. There's a rumor that the Germans are rallying for a counterattack, maybe trying to cut off the Allied push before it reaches the Seine. So you build sandbag walls, reinforce doors, set up barbed wire that snags on everything, including your own pants. You hate barbed wire. It's a reminder that things are temporary, that you're not welcome here, that violence is expected. The attack comes at night. Of course it does. It always does. Just past midnight, a flare lights up the sky like a miniature sun, then the crack of rifles. The deep bark of machine guns. You're already in your trench by the time it truly begins. You return fire instinctively, no commands needed. Just rhythm. You catch glimpses of silhouettes moving between trees, flashes of muzzle bursts, screams. One of the new guys, Carver, takes a bullet to the side. He drops near your feet. Morales grabs him and drags him back without hesitation. You cover them. Something explodes behind you. Dirt rains down. You can't hear anything for a full minute afterward, but you keep shooting, because that's what you do. The attack lasts 2 hours, maybe 3. You lose count. when it ends fast, like someone flipped a switch. The forest is still again, only now, it's littered with bodies, some of them yours, most of them not. You sit on the edge of your trench and try to breathe. Morales leans against a crate, face streaked with soot. Carver didn't make it, neither did Levine. You feel a weight that isn't just grief, it's memory, and you wonder how much more you can carry before you tip over for good. You're promoted the next day. Henderson's gone. Polk recommends you. They hand you a stripe and a notebook and call you sergeant. It doesn't feel like anything. You write names in the notebook, not because you're told to, but because someone has to, and for once, you don't want these people to vanish like ghosts. You sketch their faces, not well, but enough to remember, enough to refuse forgetting. 2 days later, a ceasefire is declared in the sector, just here, just for now, not an end, just a comma, but the guns fall silent, and no one dies that night. It's so quiet, it makes your ears ring. You sit by the farmhouse ruins and sip from a canteen filled with something stronger than water, gifted by a French farmer who doesn't speak your language, but gets it. Morales asks if you think it'll really end soon. You say yes. Then you say maybe, then you say nothing, because you don't know, but tonight, you hope, that has to be enough. The next morning, a letter arrives, addressed to you, your full name. The handwriting is shaky, you recognize it. It's from Charlie's sister. She says she found your name in a record at the base hospital. Says she hopes you're alive. Says Charlie talked about you in letters, said you were steady. Said you made him laugh. She thanks you for being there. She doesn't know you weren't. You read the letter twice, then fold it, place it in your pocket, and leave it there, right next to Lily's. You begin to feel the ground thaw under your feet, not literally. The weather's still miserable, but people are changing. There's more talking now. More questions about what comes after. Someone finds a guitar in a barn. Plays badly. You still listen. Someone else draws cartoons in the margins of your map, little stick figures doing ridiculous things. You let them, you even smile. Once, briefly, the days stretch longer, the rations slightly better. You get letters now, from home, from people who assumed you were dead. One says your picture's in the paper. You laugh out loud at that. Morales says you should frame it. You say you'll frame your discharge papers, if they ever come, but you keep the letter, because it's something real, and you need that now. You need real. And one morning, just before sunrise, you see the strangest thing, a fox, running across the field, orange and white, graceful. Silent, free, you watch it until. And for some reason, you think of Charlie, of the sketch in the cave, of the boy in the basement, of the doll in the tree, of every name and face you tried not to remember, but did, and you smile, not because it's over, not because you're okay, but because, somehow, you're still you, mostly. You don't remember the first day you stopped counting. At some point, the war stopped being measured in days and started being measured in footsteps. In the stretch of road between towns. In the number of friends you'd lost versus the number of letters you hadn't received. In how many times you heard your name shouted in the dark and mistook it for someone who wasn't there, but now the road ahead is changing. You're no longer advancing with urgency. You're moving with caution. The German army is collapsing, but like any dying thing, it's thrashing hard before the end. The fighting is desperate. Quick ambushes. Scattered resistance. One last attempt to bleed the Allies just enough to force a better surrender. Command calls it mop-up duty, you call it roulette, because just when you think the sector is secure, something explodes underfoot or out of a hayloft, and suddenly your world shrinks to the size of your helmet. Still, the map says you're winning, and the map always wins. Today, you're clearing another village. No name on the signpost, if there ever was one. It's been blown off or blackened beyond reading. It's the kind of place that looks like it's been abandoned for a century, except for the bullet holes that say otherwise. You're in charge now, Sergeant Walker. You've stopped correcting the name. You carry a notebook and a pistol and that familiar limp that means you were too slow once, but not slow enough. Morales still walks with you. So do 3 others: Sims, who talks to his rifle like it's a pet, Carter, who writes poetry in the margins of his operations log, and Davis, who's so quiet people sometimes forget he's there until he points out a sniper you didn't see. You trust them, which is a rare thing these days. The village looks peaceful at first: crumbling stone walls, ivy growing wild, a church that's mostly intact, minus its steeple, which leans like it's drunk. The fields are empty except for rows of beets no one's tended in weeks. You split the group: Morales and Carter go left, you, Sims, and Davis take the right. You're clearing houses, one by one, room by room. It's mechanical now: open door, scan, sweep, check under bed, check cellar, repeat. You find a gramophone still spinning in one, no record playing, just spinning, no one turns it off. The 3rd house is booby-trapped. Not in a clever, cinematic way, just a tripwire by the back door. Strung to a grenade with a cracked pin, Davis spots it just in time. You all freeze. Sims disarms it with a sigh, muttering something about amateur work. Then he shows you something else: footprints in the dust. Small ones. Child-sized. You don't say anything, but your stomach goes tight. Civilians. Somewhere nearby. You regroup near the well. Morales confirms it: he found a pantry with fresh food. No military markings. And a coat still damp from the morning dew. They're hiding, still here, and scared, which means they'll either run, or make a mistake. The sun is setting when Carter hears the crying, barely a whimper. You follow it to a root cellar under a barn. You approach slow. Crouched. Hands raised. There's movement inside, then stillness. You call out in French. Then in broken German, a woman answers. She says there are children. She says they're not soldiers. She says they just want to be left alone. You open the hatch gently. See eyes: 3 kids. A mother. An elderly man with a cane. You nod, back away, tell them to stay put until morning. You post a guard nearby. Carter volunteers. He has that kind of voice, the kind people believe. You sleep in a hayloft that night, not comfortable, but dry. You lie awake, staring at the rafters, thinking about the kids in the cellar, wondering how many other root cellars you've passed without noticing, how many mothers didn't cry loud enough, how many children learned to hide better than bullets. You don't dream anymore, not of home, not of peace, just of the sound silence makes before it ends. Morning brings orders: keep moving, leave the village, don't engage. You raise a protest, citing the civilians. Command shrugs it off. There's someone else's problem, you argue. Harder. You ask for supplies, medicine, a map. They give you a look, then they give you silence. You return to the root cellar. The mother meets your eyes. You don't know how to say, "I tried." So instead, you leave 2 cans of beans and your last blanket. She nods once. That's all. You don't say goodbye. It doesn't feel appropriate. You head north, toward Cannes. The roads are wider here, lined with trees in full bloom. It's spring, technically. But you're not sure if that counts when your boots are still caked in last month's mud. Morales finds a French newspaper tucked into a postbox, old, but still legible. The front page talks about liberation in bold serif letters. You skim it. You don't see the word survivors. Or orphans. Or emptied. You hand it back without a word. That night, your squad is ambushed, not by Germans, by nerves. Sims snaps after someone drops a pan in the mess area. Gun up, finger twitching, eyes wild. He doesn't fire, thank God, but his hands shake for an hour afterward. Carter writes about it in his notebook. You catch a glimpse. Sims froze at thunder, but not at tanks. The brain is a dumb animal, and war makes it dumber. You nod, then tear the page out and burn it. You like Sims. You want him to come back from this. Words like that won't help. The next checkpoint brings new faces. British troops, tall, pale, clean uniforms. They have tea ready when you arrive. You sip it slowly, pretending not to notice how different they smell. Not bad. Just unstained. They ask what it was like at the beach. Morales deflects. You don't speak. One of them pulls out a tin whistle and starts playing something jaunty. Sims leaves. You follow him. He doesn't cry, just stares at a dead tree and breathes too loud. You light him a cigarette, say nothing. He smokes it down to the paper, then goes back. You follow again. You receive news the next day. Hitler is dead. Shot himself, they say. Somewhere in a Berlin bunker. You expect a reaction from your squad. There is none. No cheers. No jokes. Just a shared glance. Like someone switched off a hallway light, and you still have to walk through it. Command says the war is ending. Maybe not ended, but ending. You hear the word victory again. It sounds hollow now, like a word someone else invented, like a party you're not invited to. You're told to secure a town with a name that sounds like coughing. On the way there, you pass a field filled with helmets. Just helmets. No bodies. No guns. Just rows and rows of helmets, all German, all deliberately placed. Morales says, it's a message. You nod, but what kind? Surrender, memorial, warning, no one knows. But everyone walks faster after that, even you. The town is empty, truly empty. No soldiers, no civilians, no dogs, just wind and glass and open doors. You set up camp in the mayor's office. It still has a desk, and a map. You mark it like you always do. Morales finds a cabinet filled with paper, birth records, death certificates, school awards, a drawing of a family labeled Mama, Papa, Moi. He puts it back, gently. You post no guards that night. Not out of confidence, just exhaustion. Nothing is coming for you anymore, at least not from outside. By the end of the week, the war officially ends. They make an announcement, a real one, not just whispers. A typed notice read aloud by a red-faced lieutenant who tries to sound proud, but mostly just sounds like he hasn't slept in a month. People clap, some cheer, some don't. You sit on a step and listen to nothing. It sounds beautiful. You don't go home right away. None of you do. The work isn't done. There are roads to clear, reports to file, ruins to sweep for traps. You find a cellar rigged with dynamite. You find another filled with books. You find a dog that follows you for 5 miles before it disappears again. You keep walking. Even when the shooting stops, you keep walking. Because there's nowhere else to go yet. Not really. Eventually. You're given papers, a train ticket, a bundle of medals you didn't ask for, your discharge date. The official seal is smudged. You keep the papers. You leave the medals. Morales gets the same. He says he might go west, California, maybe. You nod. You say you'll visit. Neither of you believes it. But it's nice to say. The last day, you pack your things into a canvas bag that still smells like mildew and blood. You leave the notebook behind, on the mayor's desk, under the map. You don't need it anymore. Someone else might. You leave behind 2 ration bars, a compass that's always been 10 degrees off, and a pencil stub worn to the nub. You take only what fits in your pockets, which isn't much, but it's enough. At the train station, a child salutes you. You don't know why. You salute back anyway. The train pulls in slow, steam hissing like a sigh. You climb aboard, find a window seat, watch the village disappear, then the trees, then the fields. You close your eyes, and for the first time in a long time, you sleep, not deeply, not peacefully, but you sleep, and the world moves on without you for a while. You step off the train with legs that don't quite remember how to stand still. It's quieter here. Cleaner. Even the air smells less suspicious. No acrid smoke, no clinging stench of cordite and blood. Just damp concrete and faint coffee from the station kiosk. Home, except, not quite, because this version of home doesn't match the image you kept safe in your head. That one had colors too bright to be real. This one is gray, subdued, muffled, like it knows you've changed and doesn't want to draw too much attention to it. You look around for someone holding a sign. For a familiar face. There isn't one, so you shoulder your bag and start walking. You're not even sure where to yet. But walking's what you know. Better than sleeping. Better than talking. The first time someone asks, "Did you see combat?" you say no. You don't know why. maybe because you don't feel like you were a combatant. You were more of a witness. A bystander to chaos. An extra in a film with too much budget and no script, they nod anyway. Hand you a drink. Say something like, "Glad you made it back," and leave the rest unsaid, which is good, because you don't want to say any of it. You find a job. Something boring. Paperwork and filing and coffee runs, people complain about the coffee. You smile politely. One afternoon, someone slams a drawer too hard and you flinch so violently you drop the stack of reports you were carrying. They apologize. You say it's fine. They don't bring it up again. The next day, you start bringing your own coffee. You write a letter to Morales. You don't say much. Just that you hope California's sunny. That the chocolate bar he smuggled into your gear before the train held up surprisingly well. That you haven't shot a rifle in months, and your back still aches like you're carrying your pack. You don't expect a reply. He sends one anyway, 2 pages. Rambling. Full of spelling errors and bad jokes. You read it 3 times. You write him again. It becomes a thing. You go on a date. Your friends say you should. That it's time. She's nice. Smells like vanilla and old library books. Asks gentle questions. You lie. Smoothly. You make her laugh. You walk her home. When she kisses you, you forget to close your eyes. You go on a second date. You tell her you used to draw. She asks to see something. You say you lost all your sketches. You don't say why. She says she understands. You think maybe she does. You buy a new pair of shoes. It's the most expensive thing you've purchased since discharge. They feel weird. Too soft. Too light. You wear them anyway, but part of you still reaches for the boots you packed away in the attic, one night. Your neighbor sets off fireworks for his kid's birthday. You hit the floor, hard, no warning. You lie there, cheek pressed to the carpet, until it's over. Until the child laughs and the sky goes quiet, then you stand, brush yourself off, and go make tea like nothing happened. You don't sleep that night, but you write Morales again. You start drawing, quietly. Cautiously. In the margins of receipts, napkins, old envelopes, it's mostly faces. None you recognize. Some you invent. Some from memory. Charlie's face appears a few times. You never keep those. You tear them out, fold them into quarters, and toss them into the fireplace. Watching them curl and blacken feels strangely satisfying. Like letting go, but not forgetting. You find yourself walking more, at night, mostly, not to anywhere in particular. Just to feel the air, to hear the hum of distant traffic. To count the stars. The world feels wider now, maybe it always was, but you were looking down too much to notice. You see another veteran one day, you know by the way he watches doorways, the way he doesn't sit with his back to the room. You give him a nod, he nods back, nothing said, but everything understood. That helps more than you expect. Time passes. Not quickly. Not slowly. Just steadily, the calendar pages turn. You stop checking the date every morning. You get used to your desk job. You get used to normal. You don't love it, but you accept it. You even hang a picture in your office. One Morales sent you of a beach in California. You tack it up with a bent thumbtack. It makes the space feel less sterile, more alive. You get a letter from the army. It's about benefits, or medals, or something else you stopped caring about. You file it away with the rest, then take a walk, past the train station, past the bookstore, past the street musician playing a sad, slow tune you swear you heard once through static in a broken radio. You drop a coin in his case. He nods, keeps playing. You start sleeping better, not every night, but often enough to notice. The dreams are less vivid now, less sharp. You wake up sometimes and don't remember them at all. It feels like healing, or maybe forgetting. You're not sure if there's a difference. But either way, it helps. You never really planned to give speeches, but one day, they ask you to, a local school. History Week. Some teacher knew your sister, or maybe your cousin, it doesn't matter. What matters is, you say yes. You don't know why. Maybe because you think you can finally talk about it without shaking. Maybe because you've gotten good at smiling when you don't mean it. Or maybe because you still feel like someone should say something. Even if it's just you, you stand at the front of the room. A few kids whisper. One yawns, you open with a joke, something about itchy uniforms and the lack of proper coffee in 1944. They chuckle. Good start, then you start talking. Not all at once. Not in the way books do. You tell them about the weight of your pack. The fog on the water. The way the sand felt under your boots the morning you landed. You leave out the worst parts. You don't talk about Charlie. Or the trench that swallowed Sims. Or the farmhouse cellar with its two quiet children, but you talk about the smell of fear. The deafening noise of silence. And how war doesn't end with the last bullet, the teacher thanks you afterward. So do some of the kids. One boy lingers behind, then quietly says he wants to be brave like you. You tell him he already is, just for listening. You walk home with that thought tucked in your pocket. Life keeps moving. The bakery on Main Street reopens. You go there on Thursdays. The woman at the counter always gives you one extra roll. Morales writes to say he started a family. Sends a photo of twin girls in sun hats. Their names are stitched into their jumpers. You pin the picture above your desk. Right next to a sketch you did of a fox. You draw more now, not always for memory. Sometimes just for the way the pencil feels moving across the paper. One rainy day, you find yourself sitting by the fire, looking at your old boots. They're cracked and soft now, leather gone from hard shell to worn skin. You almost throw them out, almost. But you tuck them back in the box and slide them under the bed, not because you need them. Just because they deserve rest too. Spring comes again, and something inside you thaws a little further. You start planting things. First it's tomatoes. Then lavender. Then a stubborn little lemon tree that refuses to die. The soil under your nails feels grounding. The way the sprouts push upward feels like a quiet victory. You learn that daisies don't mean farewell to everyone. Sometimes they just mean hello. You get a dog. It happens unexpectedly. A neighbor passes away, and the terrier with mismatched ears needs a new home. You say yes before you think it through. He's older. Quieter than most dogs. He likes curling up near your feet while you draw. He barks at thunderstorms but not at passing cars. You name him Scout. Scout becomes part of your routine. Morning walks. Evening scratches behind the ear. A reason to go outside on the colder days. You catch yourself talking to him sometimes. About the garden. About Morales's last letter. About Charlie. He listens. Doesn't interrupt. Just like the boy at the memorial, you start volunteering at the local library. There's a display of World War II memoirs, and one day a teenager asks if any of it is true. You tell her it is. And it isn't. You explain that memory is tricky. That stories simplify things that were messy. That some truths are too big for one book to hold. She nods. Takes a copy of the memoir anyway. You tell her to read it slowly. She smiles. On a warm evening in late summer, you attend an outdoor concert in the park. You sit on the grass, Scout at your side, and listen as the orchestra plays something sweeping and light. The sun sets slowly. The sky turns gold, then lavender, and for the first time in a long time, you feel content, not ecstatic. Not triumphant, just gently, steadily okay. The music fades, the applause begins, and you clap, too. So here you are, still breathing. Still remembering. Still walking, in your own quiet way. The beaches you stormed are peaceful now. Tourists walk the same sand, their feet brushing over where you once bled. The sea whispers, not screams. And the sky above, once full of smoke and fire, is just sky again. The war didn't end with a parade. Not for you. It ended gradually. Patiently. Like a tide receding. Like a wound learning how to scar, and maybe that's what healing is, in the end, not forgetting, just learning how to carry it without crumbling. So as you lie in bed now, eyes heavy, chest rising and falling with a steadier rhythm, know this, you did come back. Not whole. But enough, you came back and planted things. You drew. You walked. You laughed sometimes. You got a dog. You talked to strangers. You taught kids to be curious. And you remembered those who couldn't. That matters, that counts, so let yourself rest now, let the boots stay boxed. Let the pencil fall still. Let the names drift gently into dreams. You've earned a little peace, you've carried enough weight, let it go, just for tonight, let the waves wash in, let the sky stay quiet, let sleep take over, you're home now, really home, good night, sweet dreams.